What is Twitch Turbo? Wait, so Twitch has a way for you to never have to see ads where you don't have to pay the creator?
We are going to hit the chat room, and I'm just going to hit one right now because it's going to hit off. Doctor Who, he asked.
Yeah, but there's just no point in subbing to anybody then. There's no like sure, but the main reason why you would sub is yeah. Hey Will, we are reading Adult Children of Emotionally Mature Parents by Arrow, help me out here. I am really impressed that Twitch just decided to like dick over the creators that hard. That's pretty blatant. There we go. We read some last week and it was a pretty good stream. We raised like almost $30 for the based. I didn't actually know her credentials. Oh, okay. I believe we left off after Cynthia's story, yeah? Oh. Hang on a minute. They can't hear you. That's so weird. Doing that a bit. Can you say something? No? Maybe if I switch back to default. Now do it. More time.
One more time.
There we go. Now we got you. Cool. Thank you, Will.
Okay.
God, that is the only thing I've ever wanted from my viewers in my whole life is for them to tell me when there's a problem with my stream.
Yeah, basically. By the way, Eli, since you're watching, can you make an at everyone announcement in this streaming channel on my server?
You're right, Will, and God bless you for it. Oh, before we start reading, I just want to address. I put on Twitter and stuff that I had car problems that almost killed me like 3 times over. I realized after the fact that this may imply that I got into an accident. I did not get into an accident. My alternator like fell out because the bolt snapped, and I had to drive it home with no heat regulation in my vehicle, and I have an oil leak. So that several times my heat peaked out, and that could have started a fire really easily. My power steering wasn't just out, but the vehicle kept trying to force straight forward. So I had to use like every ounce of physical strength to turn, and it was still extreme. Like I couldn't turn like normal. I had to take wide turns. It was raining, and I couldn't use my wipers because I had to save every bit of electricity to make it home. That's why I missed 2 streams yesterday, and I am. I tried fixing it. I could not fix it because I couldn't take the bolts out. So I hit my head on the hood. Ow, right there. I got a bunch of bruises and burns and cuts and scrapes, and I'm overall sore on all of my upper body from trying to turn my vehicle that had no power steering and wanted to fight me. So I might be a little quietly like whining out. Oh, like a lot of that throughout the stream. I am fucking tore up.
Sure. To Will's question, by the way,
Mhm.
we are reading a book about how having certain problems with your parents and your relationship with your parents goes forward into adulthood, and it's and I particularly found this book enlightening because it's some of the things that Mr. Girl on a number of occasions has talked about. Not, I don't know if they've actually read the book, but their experiences and the way that they process reality and the way that their relationship works all hearken a little bit to some of the things, some of the patterns described in this book. So I thought it would be very interesting and elucidating to read about it and see how certain people might be the product of their environments.
So, to summarize, mine and what the audience experience was reading this is that this was this sort of felt like this was the kind of thing where Haru and I were gonna read it, and they'd be like, "See what I was saying about Mr. Girl there?" But what it actually ends up being is us stopping every like 5 to 25 minutes to talk about how this is dredging up our own traumas and trauma of people in the audience being expressed through chat when they realize that their parents fucking sucked.
True.
I had people messaging me after the stream like, dude, that stream was good, but like, fuck. it hurt me in ways that I forgot that I was wounded.
Damn.
When Haru's parents and partners in Dash. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of hard to summarize like the actual contents because everything's been like pretty specific. But I think the biggest takeaway that I've gotten from this is that the way that your parents treat you, if they're based on their own emotional immaturity, does not necessarily reflect on you mirroring that behavior, but usually you having an opposite kind of effect towards that affecting you. So like if your parents are like really like loud and shitty towards you, it may actually end up having you being like very quiet. Like you might not necessarily be mirroring the kinds of things that traumatize you, which I think is how a lot of people imagine like parent trauma working. That's the biggest thing that I thought going into this that I was proven wrong about. Did you have any from reading this over, did you have any like weird expectations and find them to be contrary?
I've read this before. Well,
Yeah,
I've
so go back to
read
when you
some
first
of
read
it,
it.
yeah. When I first read it, it made a lot of sense because I think that I also attract people like this into my life. I guess because we share an experience, we end up almost sort of bonding over that. And in retrospect, it makes sense some of the behaviors that a lot of people around me exhibit. Um, there's a chapter that's going to be on internalizers versus externalizers. That's the thing that I think that people will recognize the most from and gain the most from as far as understanding themselves or understanding certain very strange people in this space.
Hmm.
And it talks about it doesn't just talk about, this is one of the things that I was really glad that I picked up early in life. Um, no amount of getting revenge is actually going to help me feel any better about the things I've gone through. I'm always going to find some way to think that the world is a deeply unjust place. And the thing that makes me think that less isn't bad things happening to other people, I've realized, but like good things such as my life improving in my own working through my own trauma. Like that's what makes me think that the world is just. And like it's very clear where I get those inclinations from and what makes them worse. And I thought a lot about that while listening to this book.
I think that the world by default is an unjust place. Nature's unjust. You could just be born and then you get eaten. You ain't done nothing. But it doesn't make it any easier to deal with it. Would you like me to start the reading?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you weren't with us before, when they say things like they're always talking about the emotionally immature parent. Their self-esteem rides on your compliance. People who are emotionally immature only feel good about themselves when they can get other people to give them what they want and to act like they think they should. Given this shaky self-worth, it's hard for emotionally immature parents to tolerate their children's emotions. Pardon me. An upset or fussy child can stir up their anxieties about their own fundamental goodness. If they can't immediately calm their child, they feel like a failure and then blame the child for upsetting them. For instance, Jeff remembered an incident from childhood when he asked his father for help with his homework. When Jeff didn't understand the lesson immediately, his father yelled, "How can you be how goddamn stupid can you be? Stop being so lazy. You just don't try." Not surprisingly, Jeff was mortified and didn't ask for help again. What he couldn't understand as a child was that his father was fighting his own terror of being an incompetent father if he failed to help his son understand easily and immediately. His
I'm
reaction
gonna
wasn't
be
about
real, by
Jeff
the
at
way.
all. Yeah.
That was such a surreal thing to do because it gave me pause for interactions with other people where I've done the exact same thing. And as I started thinking about that, I kind of realized that, like, when I am in this position where I'm supposed to be teaching someone else, I
Mhm.
very much need to be patient. And, like, if they're failing to learn, it is to some extent um, because of my own ineffectiveness in teaching them. And it taught me to take more responsibility for those moments.
Um, yeah, I had a hard time when my kid first started bringing home homework because I had a very hard time because when I was a kid, school came super easy to me. The only thing I struggled with at first was math, and as soon as I figured out it's just rules, and if you follow the rules, it like does itself. It was no problem. So I really had to slow myself down and just realize that just explaining how things work isn't always going to be the best way for everybody. And I think it helped a lot with me being able to communicate with my kid about things.
I had so many teachers who had that issue with me. I can be a very slow learner because, especially when it came to math, because people weren't willing to teach me why things work. Just plug in the
Yes.
formula and it'll work. And, like, I had nothing in my brain to, like, latch that onto. So I always forgot the process because I didn't understand what I was really doing or what it meant.
I can be told the correct answer to something, but I can't accept it or use it or utilize it in any way if I don't understand why. Like I was a judge for Magic the Gathering for a while, well, as a rules advisor, but I would call the judge on myself to make sure something worked. And like I'd be like, okay, but like why does it work that way? If they can't tell me why it works that way, it's just moot. Like I have to know why. Otherwise, like, fuck you, I don't even believe you. You have to explain why. Um
Damn, not respecting the judge's authority. I see. Should
judges
have
are
joined the rule cucks.
Judges are the nerdiest of all the Magic players, and they are more than happy to explain to you why something works the way that it does. So they like me. Um, for emotionally immature people, all interactions boil down to a question of whether they're good people or bad ones, which explains their extreme defensiveness if you try to talk to them about something they did. They often respond to even mild complaints about their behavior with an extreme statement, well, then I must be the worst mother ever, or obviously I can't do anything right. They would rather shut down communication than hear something that could make them feel like bad people. I hate that. I hate when people say that more than anything because it makes it to where you can't have a conversation about the thing.
One of my parents is exactly like that, and we'll have these conversations, and they always fall back on, well, I was doing my best. That's all I could be expected to do. And it's like, yeah, but can you recognize that this was incorrect? Well, I was doing my best. And it's like, that's not an answer.
I right when you started reading, I wasn't laughing at you. Cat dog bark and YouTube said, "Oh boy, here we go again." Sorry. I know
No worries.
this book is a little bit more rocky than I think anybody watching would have thought. Yeah, I can check that out. Beats, send me a link. They see roles as sacred. If there's anything emotionally immature people are keen on in in relationships, it's role compliance. Roles simply life simplify life and make decisions clear cut. As parents, emotionally immature people need their children to play a proper role that includes respecting and obeying them. They often use platitudes to support the authority of their role as the parent because, like roles, platitudes oversimplifies complex situations and make them easier to deal with. I don't make my kids respect his elders just because they're older. That shit's dumb.
Oh God, there's so many people who I hate the word respect because it's such a fucking nebulous word. Everyone has a completely different definition for it, and everyone thinks that they have the same definition as everyone else. Like there's so many times I'm where like quote unquote basic respect is the willingness to drop everything that I am doing right in the middle of complex projects and go help another person. And if I don't do that, I'm not being respectful of them or something like that. And I'm just like, that is not a realistic definition of respect.
If somebody feels like I'm disrespecting them and I don't, what I usually say is like, what does respect look like to you? And then I can talk about if it's doable or not. I uh not that long ago got into an argument with my wife and I said, look, I don't ask for much, but I do ask that you and Levi, our kid, both respect me. And what that basically just means is that I expect that if you have an issue with me, that you talk to me about it, that you don't try to punish me for not knowing something I couldn't have known, and that you give me a chance to be a better person before you like treat me as though the thing that I did is like definitive of who I am. I just want basic human charities. That's what I mean by respect. Do you think that's a good broad definition?
Um,
Extending
no, I think that
minimum levels of charity and patience.
basic human charity is also something that a lot of people are going to disagree on exactly what that is.
Well, I
I
guess what
don't
I'm
think
saying
there's
is
ever going to be a good definition is the problem.
uh,
It's
charitable
probably as good as there
understanding.
can be one.
Okay. Yeah. Because like I never demand anybody like you don't need to do anything for me, but you shouldn't treat me in certain ways, um, without giving me a chance to correct things. I think. Role entitlement. Wait,
I can
is
read
this
this.
one? Okay. I was confused if I already read it, but by all means, take it away.
Role entitlement is an attitude of demanding certain treatment because of your social role when parents feel entitled to do what they want simply because they're in the role of parent. This is a form of role entitlement. They act as though being a parent exempts them from respecting boundaries or being considerate. Marty's parents provide a classic example of role entitlement. Marty and her husband moved to a different city after Marty's husband was transferred not long after Marty's parents moved nearby. Once in the neighborhood, her parents began stopping by unannounced and even walked into her house without knocking. When Marty suggested that they call first, her parents were indignant. They cited their role as parents and giving them the right or their roles as parents to claim their right to drop in any time. Here's another example. Faith had to ban visits from her mother, a real estate agent, because she insisted on making changes to the furniture and accessories in Faith's house. Even after Faith told her mother to stop, she protested that she should be allowed to do it because she was Faith's mother and a realtor, two key roles for her. Role coercion occurs when people insist that someone live out a role because they want them to. As parents, they'll try to force their children into acting a certain way by not speaking to them, threatening to reject them, or getting other family members to gang up against them. Role coercion often involves a heavy dose of shame and guilt, such as telling a child that he or she is a bad person for wanting something that the parent disapproves of. My client, Jillian, whose family was rigidly religious, experienced a malignant case of role coercion. Jillian married an abusive man who physically injured her numerous times. She finally found her courage to leave him, only to have her mother insist that she return to her husband. Desperate for her mother's support, Jillian finally told her mother about the abuse, but in her mother's eyes, that was besides the point. Jillian now held the role of a married woman, and divorce was a sin. In another example, when Mason told his mother he thought that he might be gay, she said he couldn't be because you are not a zebra. In her mind, the role of her son was firmly heterosexual, and if her son didn't see himself that way, he was as deluded as if he were claiming to be a different species. I okay, I disagree with the framing. Zebra is actually zebra is just an already existing term. It's something that's like that presents incredibly rare in like unrecognizable ways. I don't know if that's how she meant that. I don't know if that was like the metaphor being evoked when zebra has another meaning. But it might have been.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's like a medical reference. You're supposed if you hear hoof prints, you're supposed to think horses, not zebras.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Um,
when my kid came out to their mother as liking members of the opposite sex, uh, his mother's response was, "Oh no, my kid's not going to. Oh no, my kid's not going to be a lesbian." And it was very hard to try to damage control that. And then when my kid came out as trans, the mom says things like, "Well, why don't you just be a bird?" and things like that. And I fucking hate his mom so much. You have no idea. Because it's just I really have zero power over their dynamic. I took my kid out of the house. That's all I can do. But there's some like the zebra thing. If you think of it, um, if you're not in a relationship with the other parent, there's very little you can do to stop like these kinds of insane remarks from just like fucking your kid up.
Also, if anyone's gonna go around gifting subs, I would love one. Just saying, putting that
um,
out there.
yeah, throw some subs Haru's way, and I don't usually say it, but like if you don't like the commercials, feel free to sub to me. I gotta fix my vehicle as fuck.
Insistence on complying with roles to this degree is a profound invalidation of a child's personal and essential choices in life. Yet, emotionally immature parents have no qualms about doing it because they aren't comfortable with complexity and prefer their life simplified. In their view, not fulfilling a supposed role means something is wrong in a person, and the person needs to change. So, one of the things that you need to at every point be encouraging from your child is problem solving abilities. You want them to constantly be like engaging with finding their own methods, their own solutions, and their own selves. If you're constantly telling them who to be in order to solve a particular problem, you are not necessarily preparing them for other problems or to be more adaptive as life often requires of us.
um, I I don't ever put any restrictions or like what it means for my kid to be themselves. But what I always push is you should always do what's right, no matter what anybody says. If you know, but you have to know it's right, not what you want. Like even if it means I don't agree, you should be doing what you think is correct. That's what I push a lot.
Based. They seek enmeshment, not emotional maturity.
Um, for some people in the audience, obviously not me, maybe you could explain what enmeshment means. Obviously, I know what it
Enmeshment is the ability to
means.
fit into a specific role, to mesh into the part that they've created for you, um, as opposed to them seeking out an understanding of who you are on like a deeper level. So they basically assume um, that like they don't have to learn anything about you or anything like that. They can just tell you this is the role you need to play. Do this. Do this.
Yes, I think this is a very good way to explain this to people in the audience.
Yes, it
Thank
is.
you
Sure.
on their
I'm
behalf.
glad to be of service to Elder Drazi's audience. Although emotional intimacy and enmeshment can look superficially similar, these two styles of interaction are different. In emotional intimacy, two individuals with fully articulated selves enjoy getting to know each other at a deep level, building emotional trust through mutual acceptance. In the process of getting to know each other, they discover, even cherish differences between them. Emotional intimacy is invigorating and energizes people towards personal growth as they enjoy the interest and support of another person. In enmeshment, on the other hand, two emotionally immature people seek their identity and self completion through an intense, dependent relationship. Um, Through this enmeshed relationship, they create a sense of certainty, predictability, security that relies on reassuring familiarity of each person playing a comfortable role for the other. If one person tries to step out of the implicit bounds of the relationship, the other often experiences great society that can only be used by a return to the prescribed role. So, when you are having a relationship with another person, this applies to all relationships, not just parent child. Your goal should be the ability to appreciate the other person for what they bring to the table, not to their ability to be compliant with you. Um, there's this interesting thing called the influence continuum, which really does a good job of explaining that. I can get a picture of it.
Um, if whenever throughout all my important relationships, particularly romantic ones, that's what I always strive for. I would just like, I don't need the other person to agree with me or get along with me all the time, but like it's important to just like understand who I am, so that way my actions make sense. Because I'm a fucking weirdo. So like that emotional intimacy is important to understand why people do the things that they do. Because I think context changes a lot of actions.
Can you put the picture I sent up on screen?
Oh, you sent it to me here. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
So this is a good way to assess different types of relationships that you are in. When you're in a relationship with individuals, healthy relationships encourage you to be your authentic self, give a sense of unconditional love. You get compassion. Um, there's a valuing of conscience, there's creativity and humor, and there's a value for free will and critical thinking. Um, but destructive relationships will have like this false or a cult sort of identity. There's a very conditional love where you're only appreciated if you perform a certain set of tasks. And the moment that you step out of line, the person feels a bit of a wonky way about that.
Oh,
There's a lot of hate. There's doctrine instead of conscience. So you can't figure out what is right or wrong on your own. You have to follow a set of rules that someone else has set for you. Um, Opposed to the creativity and humor, a lot of your conversations are like solemnity, fear, and guilt. And they'll also encourage dependency and obedience. That's basically what enmeshment is, or another way of looking at enmeshment.
do you? I don't believe in unconditional love. Not for
Um,
humans.
Obviously there are like limits, but so the
That's what
goal is to get
unconditional.
the goal is to get closer to that. These aren't things that you ever truly achieve, it's things that you are working towards. There should be as few conditions to the love that you give another person as possible. You
Sure.
should value, you cannot, so for instance, you also can't value someone 100% for their authentic self because you're incapable of knowing what their authentic self is, but you're capable of valuing every time they present what they believe is their authentic self, and then you can work towards that. So like
Yeah.
that's why this is a continuum, is because you don't ever really achieve these. They're like there's no way to just like and do it. You have to, it's a process.
Yeah, I would say that if I truly care and love somebody, um, as long as I understand them to be the person that I understand them to be, then I would love them. But people can do things that change essentially who they are, in as so far as how you would categorize them or like identify them. And I think that might be a thing that could change. But I can unconditionally love my dog because there's nothing she could do that would ever make me not love her because I don't. She's not a moral agent. I don't ever take any of her actions and project like part of her identity onto them. If my dog bites somebody, what did that person do or what's wrong with my dog? Not like what's happened to my dog to make her behave this way. I'd never be like, "Oh, I guess she's just awful now. I hate her." That would never happen. But if my wife bit somebody, like what the fuck is wrong with you? Why did you bite somebody? I would feel much different. My therapist told me that she thinks it's fucked up that I don't think that you can unconditionally love a human.
I
Oh
mean,
wait,
I'm sure that she would probably dump her partner if they turned out to be Hitler.
they said I unconditionally love my kid, and I said, yeah, but like, what if your kid went on like a bunch of like racially motivated like killings? You wouldn't love your kid any less or different? She was like, no. I was like, that's insane to me. Uh, I
And to
would.
be clear, if it was my kid, I would absolutely still love them, even if they did that kind of shit. And I'd try to find a way to work through that.
uh, Nisha Hellcat said if I bite someone, Haru would be calling the base department.
Yeah, exactly. See, this is what unconditional acceptance is.
That's funny. You can tell me when to take down the
Yeah,
graphic.
no, that's good.
Okay. Oops.
So yeah, everything on the right was basically enmeshment.
I see.
Okay.
People have
Although,
intention. Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Somebody said people have intentions are sometimes very bad to materialize their intentions. Sure, if somebody does something terrible, I am more than willing to hear out. Like, I think intentionality matters almost always. Um, you would be hard pressed to find a situation where I wouldn't think so. Um, but sometimes people do bad things because they wanted bad things to happen. And if that changes the way I see you, it'll probably change the way that I love you.
I read playing favorites as playing Fortnite. Why? What is wrong with me?
You play Fortnite?
No.
Oh, okay. If you would have said yeah, I would have said, well, we got our answer, didn't we?
Enmeshment sometimes manifests as playing favorites. It can be hard to watch your parent give attention to a preferred sibling, making you wonder why your parent never showed you that kind of interest. This is something that my father used to do all the time. I have no problem signaling out my father because he's dead. So, um,
There, what's he gonna do about it?
exactly. Um, he played this game of favorites with my brother and I later learned that he effectively played like are you familiar with the double alibi?
The double alibi?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
And I have a strong desire to pretend like I know everything too.
So the double alibi is the thing you learn when you're when you and your friend want to go somewhere.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm staying the
That.
night at Jesse's house. Jesse tells his mom he's staying the night at my
So
house.
he played his own game of that where he would make me think that my brother was the favorite and he would make my brother think that I was the favorite so that we were constantly competing with each other and he would like stir the tensions between us. My brother doesn't believe that, but that's
Well,
because
that's
he's
because
an
he's the
idiot.
favorite. Well, yeah, if he
Anyway,
believed it, then he
yeah.
wouldn't be able to be the favorite, right?
True, true. But obvious favoritism isn't a sign of a close relationship, it's a sign of enmeshment. It's likely that the preferred sibling has a psychological maturity level similar to your parents'. Low levels of emotional maturity pull people into mutual enmeshment, especially if it's a parent and a child. Remember, Emotionally immature parents relate on the basis of roles, not individuality. If you had an independent, self reliant personality, your parent wouldn't see you as a needy child for whom he or she could play that role of a rescuing parent. That's something that my mom did a lot.
Oh.
Instead, you may have been pegged as the child without needs, the little grown up. It wasn't some sort of insufficiency in you. It was that in you that made your parent pay more attention to your sibling. Rather, it's likely that you weren't dependent enough to trigger your parents' enmeshment instincts. Interestingly, self sufficient children who don't spur their parents to become enmeshed are often left alone to create a more independent and self determined life. Therefore, they can achieve a level of self development exceeding that of their parents. In this way, not getting attention can actually pay off in the long run. But in the meantime, high functioning children still have the pain of feeling left out as their parent pours energy into emotional enmeshment with one or more siblings. Enmeshment can take the form of either dependency or idealization. In dependent enmeshment, the child is maladjusted and the parent plays the role of the rescuer or the victim. In idealized enmeshment, the parent indulges a favorite child as though that child is more important and deserving than the other kids. However, this traps the idealized favorite child into an ironclad role so that that child isn't experiencing any true emotional intimacy either. This is something that happens a lot with my brother. Um, I was the first one in the house who was aware that he became a drug addict. And my parents were not willing to accept this. And at some point, I really wanted to get him help. Um, it wasn't until I actually It wasn't until I got pictures of the drug paraphernalia because he had left it out because they weren't going to be home that they were actually like, "Oh shit, you mean it's for real?" And it's like, "Yeah, I know because he's been sneaking out every fucking night and he comes back with like his you could tell what he's been doing. He reeks of it. I don't know how you don't know. You were like so hard coping that he's not a drug addict."
Wait, are you talking about weed?
I don't think it was just weed.
Oh, okay. You said he smells like it. I'm like, wait, are we calling people who
Weed
smoke
too.
weed drug addicts?
I mean, first of all, you should not be smoking weed if you're like 13 to 14 years old. So,
I just being concerned with grouping people who smoke weed with like what we would typically consider to be a drug addict. I think it under stigmatizes like hard drug abuse and it over stigmatizes marijuana use. Which I don't smoke weed anymore, but I did for a long time.
um, I'm gonna say that if a kid is smoking, if someone who's still in their early teens, um, is going out every night or almost or every other night to go smoke weed and get high for like several hours, I think they have an addiction.
So I'm not saying that young teens should smoke weed. I smoked weed first time when I was 13, not again until I was 16, and then I didn't smoke it regularly until I was 17. I think I
Yeah,
did it right.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying because of the frequency that it was pretty alarming. And because it was getting like I think it's pretty safe to call him a druggie, even if I know he wasn't just doing weed, to be clear. It's
Sure.
just the one thing that you could very easily spot. Um,
I think if you're 13
but
and you're
yeah,
smoking weed all the time and sneaking out to do it, there's probably a reason why you're risking that much. Like even if you're just doing it because it's fun, if you
yeah.
need that much, if you need fun in that way, where you're risking that much, something is disordered for
It's
sure.
also super fucking annoying because like every night his room was right next to mine. He was so fucking noisy opening that goddamned window and climbing out. And I'm just like, how do they not hear this? How are they not waking up every time he does this? And he would just wake me up in the middle of the night for like 10 minutes. And then I couldn't get back to sleep, and my grades started to get fucked because he kept, waking me up in the middle of the night.
So what you're saying is you didn't care about the drug use. You just didn't like the
Well, no, it's a
being
little bit
well
of
capped up.
both.
And I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing you.
But yeah. All right.
If you would like, I can tag in.
Sure. You can read. We're at Heather's story.
Yeah. Heather's story. Heather had always longed for her mother's interest and attention, but had never received it. While her eldest sister Marlo was the clear favorite, Heather was particularly hurt when her mother enthusiastically reported how, on a recent visit, she and Marlo had just talked and talked and talked. About what? Heather asked. Oh, just what she was doing and what she wants to do. Heather's heart felt pierced because she had always wished for those kinds of conversations with her mother, but it had never happened. Another time, at a holiday gathering, Heather watched with dismay as her mother fluttered around Marlo with an adoring look and volunteered to sit on an uncomfortable chair so Marlo could have a nice seat. Mark's story. Mark's father, Don, clearly preferred Mark's younger brother, Brett, helping him financially and calling him his baby. Weird. When Mark's father died, at the funeral, Mark's uncle remembered how hard Don had been on Mark, punishing him harshly for no good reason. You were the best one, his uncle told him. I couldn't understand why he was so tough on you. Mark was an independent, intelligent child who was never dependent on his father. They couldn't enmesh, so Don turned to Brett, who was more emotionally immature. Finding substitute family members. Emotionally immature parents can act out their needs for enmeshment even with people who aren't close family members. If there is an enmeshment void, they'll go outside of the immediate family to fill it. They might also become enmeshed with a group, such as a church or other organization. Bill's story. After Bill was grown and out of the house, his parents started taking in homeless people they met through a church outreach program. At any get-together, Bill's parents would regale people with stories about their latest in the people's lives. In the lives of people, Jesus Christ, they were helping. Although Bill's parents were very invested in talking about the latest person they had taken under their wings, they rarely mentioned anything Bill was involved in. They're emotional tourists. Hey, Eli. I can't believe y'all snitching. They have an inconsistent sense of time. Although this is an extremely subtle point, easily overlooked, emotionally immature people often have fragmented orientation to time, especially when they get emotional. We might assume that all adults experience time the same way, using a kind of linear continuum that stretches seamlessly from the distant past to the foreseeable future. Not so with emotionally immature people. When they get emotionally aroused, the moment exists in a kind of eternal now. This is one reason why the lives of emotionally immature people are often beset with problems. They don't see them coming. Ruled by desires of the moment, their experiences in time are frequently disconnected. When acting on their impulses, they don't use the past for guidance and they don't anticipate the future. This disturbance in time continuity explains their inconsistencies and the unreflective way they handle relationship issues. This is a little bit odd to put in here without some heavy caveats because people with ADHD, for example, have an extremely hard time. Poor choice of words. They have an extremely. It's extremely difficult for people with ADHD to manage time effectively because that part of the mechanism or that mechanism of the brain just isn't operating correctly. People.
Well,
with
yeah,
ADHD,
but I think.
Well, you don't have to be emotionally mature to have this. There are other things that can make time assessment very difficult.
Well, yeah, it's meant as like these are all supposed to be red flags.
Sure.
And like one or two or even five red flags doesn't necessarily mean the bad thing. But like if you got 10 red flags, something might be going on.
Yeah, you could probably start a flag troop.
True.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's not so much that I think that it's irresponsible for the author to say this, but I think it'd be irresponsible for me not to point out that if your parents are bad with time, this may not be the thing, because there's or if they have other flags too, this might just not be one of them if they have certain other mental health issues that can make this happen.
Well, yeah, but to be fair, to be fair, sorry, almost anything in this book could also be something else. I think that like
Yeah.
there would be too much caveating if we're always saying like it could also be something else, it could also be something else, it could also be something else. It's trying to draw a potential pattern.
Yeah. I probably just feel compelled to point it out when it's things that are close to me. Fun fact, my mom explained this loss of time from ADHD to me in such a terrible fucking way. She made me think that I was the kind of person that would like black out and lose sections of my day. So like when I was a kid, I would wonder if I did things that I just wasn't aware of because of it. Because it all sprouted from me saying like we went to the library today. I was in elementary school. I was like, and it just went by so fast. It just seemed like it was just right after we got there that we had to go. And she explained like how because of my ADHD that I just I lose time like that. And like she's like, you can have just hours go by and feel like it was just like a minute, and you don't really know where all the time went. So I thought it meant like I was like entering fugue states or something that I was unaware of. And I was like, oh, I'm fucked.
Well, damn. Maybe if you're losing so much time, you never cared about the time's feelings to begin with.
I think
Sorry.
I think that the time was eluding me on purpose. I think it didn't care about my feelings.
I see, I see. So we're Darvoing time. I support it.
Yeah, as you should. It's only on its side.
True, true.
Why a poor sense of time can look like emotional manipulation. Emotionally immature people may seem to be emotional manipulators, but they're actually just very opportunistic tacticians pressing for whatever feels best at the time. They have no investment in being consistent, so they say whatever gives them an edge in the moment. They may be capable of strategic thinking in their work or in other pursuits, but when it comes to emotional situations, they go for the immediate advantage. Lying is a perfect example of a momentary win that feels good but is destructive to a relationship in the long run. How lacking a sense of time's continuity creates inconsistency. When stressed or emotionally aroused, immature people do not experience themselves as being embedded in an ongoing flow of time. They experience moments in time as separate, non-linear blips, like little lights randomly going on and off, with very few linkages between one interaction and another. They act inconsistently. As their consciousness hops from one experience to another, this is one of the reasons why they're often indignant when you remind them of their past behavior. For them, the past is gone and has nothing to do with the present. Likewise, if you express caution about something in the future, they're likely to brush you off since the future isn't here yet. More emotionally mature people, on the other hand, experience time in a series of connected, self-aware moments. If they regret something they did, it continues to travel with them through time. I read that wrong, but I said same thing. Attached to them by an emotion like shame or guilt. If they think about doing something risky in the future, they feel linked to what might happen and choose to do something different. The moments of their lives feel connected, each affecting the others, and all affecting the relationships with other people. Whoa. What's happening? Jesus. Sorry, I read faster than my mouth can say it in a coherent way, so I fuck up a lot. I do. I tend to read like the sentences like all at once, and then I have to like say them so they can come out a little bit jumbled. How would a immature sense of time limits self-reflection and accountability? Self-reflection is the ability to analyze your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors over time. People who focus mostly on the present moment don't have enough of a time perspective to engage in self-reflection. Instead, with each new moment, they leave their past behind, freeing them from any sense of responsibility for their actions. Therefore, when someone feels hurt by something they did in the past, they tend to accuse the person of dwelling on the past for no good reason. They don't understand why others can't just forgive, forget, and move on. Because of their
Oh
limited.
God. I'm sorry. I've heard this before, but that's too real. I just had this interaction with a person. I had this interaction with a person. Um, so normally we don't like friend police people. And I think that like when we do friend police people, it means a certain thing because this is a thing that is like insanely rare for us. It's not even once in a blue moon. And we talked to this person and we're like, listen, I get that you are friends with them, but your friendship with this person um, has manifested in our lives with some of the most toxic ways imaginable, to such an extent that like um, this person is telling us how we haven't been experienced real trauma, which is a very interesting thing to have to say to a person um, who's had a gun pulled on them before. But sure, why not?
Pain Olympics are
um
bad.
yeah. And we haven't experienced what ADHD is like, because unlike them, we have sought therapy and treatment and work on a bunch of strategies to be able to manage our ADHD. And they said a whole bunch of like incredibly ableist shit to us. I think it's fair to classify those two statements as ableist, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Um,
I I
and
I police people's self-proclaimed OCD a lot. I have
how
obsessive
great.
compulsive tendencies, and I hate it when people explain that they're creatures of habit and say, "Oh, I think I have OCD a little." If you say that to me, know that even if I'm nice to you, I fucking hate you.
So, uh, so we talked to her and we're like, listen, you at one point thought that our behavior, which was not ableist, was not aimed at a significant friend of yours, etc., was reason enough to block us and disassociate yourself from us. And if that's your moral system, fine. Why did you not apply this to your friend who has said worse things and done worse things on a repeated basis than we ever did, though? Why in the world are you still friends with this person? How can you justify the statements that she continually makes in your mind? And more importantly, why do you support her? It's not even just you're just a friend. You specifically go out of your way to be a supporter of this person.
Oh, I can maybe
And it's
explain
like,
why that would happen in a way that makes sense.
well, no,
Um,
I can understand exactly why. It's because she holds us to different this person holds us to different standards than the other person. It's very easy to understand.
yeah, if you matter more deeply, and the other person matters more superficially, things that you say and do are going to hold more weight, right?
Oh, well, the problem was those two were casual friends at the time, and we were her partner.
Yes,
That's
yes.
why that's such an issue, because it's like this person goes after your partner over and over and over again, and all you can ever say is, I don't remember it happening. Like your memory just suddenly stops functioning the second that she's saying ableist shit to us, the second that she's bullying us. And like, do you disavow? Do you apologize? Because like that was some fucked up shit going on. And they're just like, I don't have to apologize for anything. And it's like, No, you kind of do. You kind of do. There are expectations. I hate saying the respect thing, but like, yeah. And it's like, to wrap this back around, to wrap this back around, um, she was just like, why are you still dwelling on this? And it's like, because you're not the person who is wronged in any of this. So like, what what do you get to determine how long anyone's allowed to dwell on something when you weren't the wronged party? What?
Well, usually somebody's dwelling on something because they haven't gotten any resolution.
Yeah, it's like the cops shot your best friend and they're just asking, why are you still dwelling on this one day later?
Yeah.
They're
Oh my
just a
God, that
friend
was
of
2
yours.
weeks ago. They're dead. Move on.
And it's
Um.
like it's so easy to say like that she just had an incredible blind spot, or even um so the admission that we wanted, because I'm pretty sure this is the case, is she just felt spiteful and vindictive towards us at the time, and used that other person, or used looking the other way when that person did something, as her way of getting like retribution. And that's probably like that's the easiest explanation for why she did it, and it not this just constant memory leak issue.
Oh sure. Um.
But like she doesn't want to admit that, and like it's fine if you did that. Like we'd be just as vindictive. We've been just as vindictive before, but you have to be real and like admit that you did that. Like it's okay to be spiteful. It's not okay to lie about being spiteful.
What if you lie about
That's
being
our
spiteful
line.
out of spite?
Damn. Nope.
Um. So you've
Too
mentioned
far.
partners a couple times before. Am I? So this is the image I have. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is my understanding of your relationship dynamics that you're polyamorous,
Yeah.
panromantic, asexual?
Yeah.
Okay. Look at me knowing stuff.
We're not in a relationship with them anymore because
Well, it didn't sound like
for
it's great.
obvious reasons. Because like we used to have things that we bonded with them over, but like at one point they got too stuck in their own head, and then when they said that the problem with us was that we were too stuck in our own head over our own issues, it felt really surreal that that's only a problem when we do it.
Yeah, that's just somebody saying they don't want to deal with your shit.
Yeah, and like I just wish people would say that. If you don't want to deal with our shit, you don't have to deal with our shit. Just say it. Don't hide behind a bunch of like nuance or weird arguments and stuff. Just say you don't like us. We're very unlikable people. It's very easy to find a reason to not like us. God, that sounds like such a dig at myself.
I don't know. You say something that I said a lot, that I say a lot, but I say it in a nicer way. Um, I know, like when I have difficult conversations with my wife, I usually say something like, "I understand that I can be a very difficult person to love." That sounds like what you're saying, but in a meaner way to yourself.
Yeah. Like we're deeply principled, and I can easily understand why someone doesn't appreciate those principles. But like because like we because like we'll call out anyone who doesn't live up to those principles, and we've lost a lot of friends over that. Um we had this huge drama years back that played out because um we so this friend of ours invited this dude that was a friend of theirs into the server, and the person was saying a bunch of queer phobic shit, like that non-binary people only do it for attention. um and we weren't none of us identified as like non-binary at the time, but we're like, hey, this is really inappropriate to be saying about other people's lived experiences. This is a really fucked up way to mind read them, and we like discipline them in the server, and then we got shit on by that person who's like, well, why are you cracking down on my friends? And it's like, why are you defending your friend when they're saying that a bunch of people are just faking their gender identity without any proof whatsoever? And we kept saying, listen, just admit that they made an oopsie, that was an inappropriate thing to say, and we're fine. But you can't justify this. But apparently they did justify queerphobia over us. So like, yeah,
Oh.
we lose a lot of, and it's like we won't compromise with that shit. Like if you're gonna shit on the identity groups that we care about, we're gonna stand up for them, and there's like no amount of you being good to us that's going to make us look the other way, because it's something that matters to us.
Yeah. When you have a partner, is just one member of the system dating that person?
Sometimes. Sometimes more than one member of the system likes that person. So as many of the members of the system that like that person are dating that person, basically. Well, if
Interesting.
they like them in that way, to be clear, not just, friendly.
I wonder. I have a Quora page bookmarked now. I'm curious how that plays out. If somebody has alters that are, say, like let's say they're a cis heterosexual man, but one of their alters is a cis gay man.
I'm
That
gonna
would
be
cause a lot
real.
of problems.
When it
Some,
comes
some people
when it
talked about it in the Quora thread. But go ahead.
when it comes to oh my god, Nisha. So
Especially,
is my
imagine if
new so
the heterosexual one was homophobic too. All 16? That's rude.
oh, base Nisha though.
That has Big Beckett going, all right, who the fuck am I talking to today? Energy.
Okay, that was a really banger joke though. Okay. So people really misunderstand sexuality. I hate saying straight versus gay, because realistically, you basically are you familiar with gynephilia and androphilia?
Yeah. So, to be clear, when I say I think the sexuality is mostly a
Yeah.
spectrum, but when I say straight, I'm talking about how the person experiencing their sexuality identifies it themselves. So, like, if you feel like you're straight, that probably qualifies you as being straight to me, even if you're unaware that you might have some like super gay thoughts pushed down there.
Yeah, I just think that some people are gynephilic, some people are androphilic, and some people go both ways.
Hmm.
I think
Right.
that I think we're conditioned by a narrative about like straight or gay, that's existed for the most part as a means of controlling sexuality, because people are afraid of doing things that impugn their masculinity or femininity. And the straight gay narrative originally was a good way to reinforce certain narratives. And it is close enough to the gynophilic slash androphilic thing that like it doesn't cause too much discomfort, even though there are people who've been like straight or gay for their entire lives and suddenly found themselves attracted to someone who's completely outside of what would usually be the range of their sexual proclivity.
Eternal Paradox, you are very close. The most masculine thing that a cis male can do is to fuck another man in the ass. I said this on a
Oh my
stream.
god.
There is nothing more masculine than a man physically dominating and penetrating another man. That is king of the jungle energy. It's like, I don't even like this. That is masculine as fuck. But you were very close. Uh, I think that you're right. Like I've made jokes for like probably like a year or two about me being attracted to Freddie Mercury, and then one day I stopped. I was like, you know what? I am. That's the only man I've ever found physically attractive to me in my entire life. But I ain't lying. Uh, his entire personality that we get to see like on stage in like interviews and stuff, he just oozes sex. I can't help it. It's just pure sexual energy. If you think I'm wrong, I challenge you to find a live performance of Queen that defies what I just said.
True, fucking true.
By the way, if you don't know where we're at, I have it highlighted. Sometimes you just gotta jack off all the bros. It's the role of the alpha. You know, I hate the response that pulled from my mind. I was like, wait, if you gotta jack off all of the bros, that seems like a very, and my brain was like, motherly thing because you're taking care of the group. But I hate that that's what I thought. Fuck you, Eli. Don't give me brain cancer like this.
I am sorry, but that's just the correct thing to think. Your brain is actually being cured of the cancer that it used to believe in.
Caregiving for an entire group is a very feminine, like motherly thing, or
Yeah,
maybe it's a
exactly.
masculine part of the mother. I don't fucking know. This is all this stuff just feels like a bunch of
Copium.
just like a bunch of like gobbledygook that we want. We want things to make sense. And nature just sometimes is. Do you wanna pick up where you left off, or do you want me to go?
I'll do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem.
Okay. So let me where are we at again? Why a poor sense of time can look like emotional manipulation.
Because of their limited sense of continuity to time.
Oh yeah. We're in how lacking a sense of time's continuity creates inconsistency. There we go. It is neither masculine nor feminine to be the provider. It is feline. I will not explain this take whatsoever, but Eli will get it. When stressed or emotionally aroused, immature people don't experience themselves as being embedded in. No, I feel like I've already read that.
That's where I had it highlighted when you stopped.
Okay. In the ongoing flow of time, they experience moments in time as separate nonlinear blips like lights that randomly
Oh no
going
no
off.
no, I'm sorry. Can you see my stream? Right there.
Okay.
It was
Fuck
the
no,
last
the ads
sentence
are
of that
playing.
paragraph. Last sentence of the paragraph you were on.
Okay. The moments of their lives feel connected, each affecting others and all affecting the relationships with other people. Self-reflection is the ability to analyze your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors over time. People who focus mostly on the present moment don't have enough time of a time perspective to engage in self-reflection. Instead, with each new moment, they leave their past behind, freeing them from any sense of responsibility for their actions. God, this is too real. Freeing them from any sense of responsibility for their actions. Therefore, when someone feels hurt by something they did in the past, they tend to accuse the person of dwelling on the past for no good reason. They don't understand why others can't forgive, forget, and move on. Because of their limited sense of continuity of time, they don't understand what it takes to heal from betrayal. you can see how hard accountability would be for these people. It's a flimsy concept for those who don't feel a temporal connection between their actions and future consequences. As a result, their natural style is to promise something, not do it, apologize perfunctorily, and then resent people if they keep bringing it up. You may wonder why a person would develop such an unreliable sense of time, being blind to their own inconsistencies and unable to observe their own behavior. It has to do with their lack of self development and poor personality integration, along with their tendency towards extremely concrete, literal thinking, because they don't have an ongoing, continuous self as the organizing center of their personality. Emotions or stress can put them in a childlike mentality where moments in time float separately.
Um, so we already basically paused for any given reason here, but I wanted to wait till you got to the end here. Cat Dog Bark said something, and I have to derail this for a moment because while I agree with him, I have to show him that we don't always agree with this. So he said, and I had it too, he said, my father kissed me on the lips throughout all high school. Different cultures view it differently. I think society's gotten more repressed. First genitalian males kiss. My dad kissed me on the lips. My mom kissed me on the lips when I was growing up. I didn't think it was weird. I didn't like when my dad kissed me because his lips were always wet. He just had a wet mouth kind of guy. I didn't think it was like gay or weird or anything. I just like ugh. However, I think that this is a great reason why we should all never do it, because this is the best example of just like how fucking I just need to use a different thing for this. Have you seen Tom Brady kiss his son?
No.
You're about to. It's the most uncomfortable thing I've ever seen an adult do to a child that was like somewhat socially acceptable. It is fucked up. I'm just gonna block us out for a minute because this is important. So this is socially acceptable. Oh, the whole site's muted. What in the fuck? And he says, "Wait, get back here. That's not good enough." Is that fucked up or what?
I have no idea what I'm even looking at.
In all fairness, it hits different with no audio.
I think at a certain
There we
age,
go.
I already know, Jack.
He goes
Asks
like,
him if he can check his fantasy football standings.
I was wondering if I could check my fantasy team.
What do I get? I already know, Jack. Everything comes at a cost, bud.
That was like a peck.
The second kiss shared by father and son prompted tweets from viewers using words like very disturbing and uncomfortably long. So we asked New Yorkers what they thought.
there you go, that's all. He said, "What do I get?"
I I don't know. I didn't know what I'm looking at.
That was Tom Brady prepping his son to make love to him, it seems like. It's fucked up. There's other ones.
Definitely weird. Yeah.
There's another one too where he's sitting like by the pool and him and his kid are in bathing suits and like his kid's like sitting in his lap. Why didn't he accept it the first time? It was too weak. He didn't get enough. He whispered a little more tongue, please. I couldn't even watch it the second playthrough with the sound. I was like, I already saw it. It makes my skin crawl. So, even if you agree that it's okay that some people kiss their kids on the mouth, we all agree there's a fucking line. How much less weird is it if he's not half naked laying down, though?
I don't think that the nakedness contributed to the weirdness of that. I think that he could be fully clothed and it would just be as weird.
Wait a minute. You say that, but what if he was more naked? Then it would contribute. So there is some spectrum of it.
Well, I'm not saying that no nakedness. I'm just saying that his level of nakedness in that did not contribute to the weirdness of it.
I think it did for a lot of people. I think also the fact that he's laying down makes it weirder too. Because like his son is like top down kissing him. It's fucked.
Wait, why does top down kissing make it more fuck? What?
It makes it more fucked to me. Well, let me put it this way. When I'm top down kissing somebody, it's usually very intimate. This is usually like a sexual situation, or like I'm crawling on top of like a sexual partner to kiss them, even if it's not like a sexual kiss. So it's very rare that I would imagine a kiss happening in top down where it's not that. So because I recognize it as that, so could like tied to like romantic partners or like directly a sexual kiss, that it just feels more icky. Because kisses don't mean that. But I recognize on a cultural level. Yes, kissing means different things to different cultures, for sure. I had a friend from Australia who thought it was hilarious to like make out with his buddy who came out from Australia with him because it made Americans so uncomfortable. Despite the fact that neither of them were sexually interested in any guys, they just loved how kissing made Americans freak the fuck out.
That feels like coping.
I mean, you say that, but he got married to a woman, and they're still happily together, and there's no like funny business going on. Funny, I mean, I was gonna say I know this guy. He seems like he would not give a fuck if he was bisexual or gay. He would just like it because, again, it would make people uncomfortable.
I've got to say, all of you allosexual people are perverts.
Allosexual? You fuck one houseplant.
What? Oh god.
No, I don't know what allosexual means.
It's the opposite of asexual.
Oh, gotcha. I believe you mean normal people. I'm just kidding.
I used to follow this subreddit, Are the Allos Okay? And it got so but like eventually we had to unfollow the subreddit because it got really, really weird where like some of the stuff was just really normal feeling behavior, like slightly weird. But like I think there was this one post, this is like when we had to unfollow it, where like where this guy where this I don't know, this couple, one of them proposed to the other, and they made it out like it was super weird, super on the spot, super you shouldn't do this. Um, and like they're talking about how I think it was the guy had no reaction or like he was like in pain or something or didn't want it. And like you read the actual like story behind the whole thing. Um, and actually both of them were like really wanting to go to the next step, and they just got a really weird it was a really weird moment the picture was taken at.
So what's
And
the
like and everyone was soying out about how disgusting allosexual culture was, just proposing to your girlfriend at the spot, on the spot, or your boyfriend, I don't know which.
That's pretty wild. Well, I don't use Facebook anymore, but every once in a while I'll pop by to my favorite page, which is Alright Fellows, Is It Gay To Chuck's Notes. It's just people, like somebody asked if somebody's selling a car and they said, "Hey, with 3 Ys, is this still available?" The guy said, "Can you stop acting so gay?" That was the seller's response to the guy. It's just a collection of people being very insecure about their sexuality. Like, one of them is somebody said that if you make a woman climax, it makes her a man because climaxing is masculine. So if you make a woman finish, you're gay. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. One of them is a meme of a guy putting on makeup, and it says, "Guys who change their boxers every day be like."
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a bit wonky.
Yeah. There's nothing that
Alright.
makes me happier than seeing people getting weirded out over the most common activities and labeling them as gay. They just must be like walking through their life dodging shit like the Matrix.
True. Summary. Emotionally mature people have a poor sense of personal history and resist being accountable for their past actions or future consequences. Lacking a firm sense of self, they think family closeness means enmeshment, with people existing to mirror each other. Real communication is nearly impossible because of their poor empathy and rigid emphasis on roles. They neglect relationship repair and reciprocity and shirk the emotional work necessary to be sensitive to other people. Instead, they focus on whether others seem to make them look good or bad. Defending against anxiety trumps anything. Trumps relating authentically to other people, including their children. In the next chapter, we'll take a look at some research on early motherhood, on mother-child attachment to see how these immature characteristics might arise. Then I'll discuss how this translates into the 4 main types of emotionally mature parents. I just want to say that entire summary describes the person I was talking about earlier to a T. And it's not
My
even
ex-partner.
and it's not even a unique criticism of them because like they're um the other people that we've known that they've partnered with like experienced same.
I can read this part. 4 types of emotionally immature parents. There are different types of emotionally immature parents, but all can cause loneliness and insecurity in children. There's basically one way to provide nurturing love, but many ways to frustrate a child's need for love. In this chapter, we'll look at 4 types of parents, each with a particular brand of emotional immaturity. Although each type is insensitive in a different way, we all create insecurity in children. They all create emotional insecurity, not we all. Despite their different styles, all 4 types have the same underlying emotional immaturity. All tend to be self-involved, narcissistic, emotionally unreliable. All share the common traits of egocentricity, insensitivity, and a limited capacity for genuine emotional intimacy. All use non-adaptive coping mechanisms that distort reality rather than dealing with it. And all use their children to try to make themselves feel better, often leading to a parent-child role reversal and exposing their children to adult issues in an overwhelming way. In addition, all 4 types have poor resonance with other people's feelings. They have extreme boundary problems, either getting too involved or refusing to get involved at all. Most tolerate frustration poorly and use emotional tactics or threats rather than verbal communication to get what they want. All 4 types of parents resist seeing their children as separate individuals and instead relate to them strictly on the basis of their own needs. And with all 4 styles, children end up feeling de-selfed because their needs and interests are eclipsed by what's important to the parents. Before we explore the 4 types, however, let's take a brief moment to look at previous research that studied the effects of different types of parenting on quality of attachment behaviors in babies. How different types of parenting affect infant attachment. Mary Ainsworth, Sylvia Bell, and Donalda Staten, I don't like that name, conducted famous infant attachment research that has been replicated many times over the years. Part of the research involved observing and identifying maternal characteristics that were associated with either secure or insecure attachment behaviors in babies. As summarized in their 1974 article, these researchers rated mothers' behaviors toward their babies on 4 dimensions: sensitivity versus insensitivity, acceptance versus rejection, cooperation versus interference, and accessible versus ignoring. They found a mother's degree of sensitivity was a key variable in the sense that mothers who rated high in sensitivity also, without exception, rated high in acceptance, cooperation, and accessibility, whereas mothers who rated low in one of the other 3 scales also rated low in sensitivity. Ainsworth and her colleagues reported more sensitive mothers had babies who showed more secure attachment behaviors in their experiments. Here's how these researchers describe the sensitive mothers of babies who showed secure attachment behaviors. In summary, highly sensitive mothers are usually accessible to their infants and are aware of even more subtle communication signals, wishes, moods, and in addition, these mothers accurately interpret their perceptions and show empathy with their infants. The sensitive mother, armed with this understanding and empathy, can time her interactions well and deal with the baby so that her interactions seem appropriate and kind as well as in quality and prompt. However, the behaviors of mothers whose babies showing insecure attachment behaviors were very different. Thinking back to chapters 2 and 3 of this book, see if the following description of insensitive mothers from Mary Ainsworth and her colleagues reminds you of characteristics of what I am calling emotionally immature parents. In contrast, mothers with low sensitivity are not aware of much of the infant's behavior, either because they ignore the baby or they fail to perceive in his activity the more subtle and hard to detect communications. Furthermore, insensitive mothers often do not understand those aspects of the infant's behavior of which they are aware, or else they distort it. A mother may have somewhat accurate perceptions of her infant's activity and moods and may be unable to empathize with him. Through either lack of understanding or empathy, mothers with low sensitivity improperly time their responses, either in terms of scheduling or in terms of promptness to the baby's communications. Further, mothers with low sensitivity often have inappropriate responses in kind as well as in quantity, interactions which are fragmented and poorly resolved. These research findings support the idea that a mother's levels of sensitivity and empathy strongly affect the quality of the baby's attachment behaviors in the mother-child relationship. The 4 types of emotionally immature parents. Keeping in mind this previous research on infant attachments, now let's now take a look at what I've categorized as the 4 main types of emotionally immature parents, who are all especially likely to... Are you okay? I said, are you okay?
Yeah. Why?
Loud crashing sounds.
Oh, that's just a chair. Hang on.
Oh.
It just squeaks. That's it.
Oh.
Nothing's actually like crashing.
Yeah, it sounds like things are falling off of a shelf and then falling onto a floor.
No.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Well, as long as everything's good.
Oh, actually, here. That's a little. That should fit.
Okay. Wait. Keeping in mind the previous research on infant attachment, let's now take a look at what I've categorized as the 4 main types of emotionally insecure parent, who are all likely to create feelings of insecurity in their children. Although each type undermines a child's emotional security in different ways, all of them relate to their children with limited empathy and unreliable emotional support, their fundamental lack of sensitivity at the time. Also be aware that each type exists along the continuum from mild to severe, with varying degrees of narcissism. In severe cases, the parent may be mentally ill or physically or sexually abusive. Emotional parents are run by their feelings, swinging between over-involvement and abrupt withdrawal. They are prone to frightening instability and unpredictability. Overwhelmed by anxiety, they rely on others to stabilize them. They treat small upsets like the end of the world and see other people as rescuers or abandoners. Driven parents are compulsively goal-oriented and super busy. They stop trying to perfect everything, including other people. Although they rarely pause long enough to have true empathy for their children, they are controlling and interfering when it comes to running their children's lives. Passive parents have a laissez-faire mindset and avoid dealing with anything upsetting. They're less obviously harmful than the other types, but have their own negative effects. They readily take a backseat to a dominant mate, even allowing abuse and neglect to occur by looking the other way. They cope by minimizing problems and acquiescing. Rejecting parents engage in a range of behaviors that make you wonder why they have a family in the first place. Whether their behavior is mild or severe, they don't enjoy emotional intimacy and clearly don't want to be bothered by children. Their tolerance for other people's needs is practically nil, and their interactions consist of issuing commands, blowing up, or isolating themselves from family. Some of the milder types may engage in stereotype family activities, show little closeness or real engagement. They mostly want to be left alone to do their thing. As you read the following descriptions, keep in mind that some parents are a blend of types. While most parents tend to fall into one category, any may be prone to behaviors that fit any type when under a certain kind of stress. And within the following descriptions, you'll see a unifying thread. None of these types are able to consistently act in ways that would make the child feel secure about the relationship. However, each type has its own unique ways of falling short. Also note that my purpose here is just to provide an okay. Stream can still hear me. All my USBs turned off.
That is. Oh, I've had that issue before. Fuck.
I have two, and I don't remember how I fixed it last time.
Inshallah, my friend.
It's a big pain in the ass. Let's see. Where the fuck was I at? There we are. However, each type has its own way of falling short. Also note that my purpose here is just to provide an outline of the 4 parenting types. I'll discuss the best ways of dealing with emotionally immature parents in later chapters. Yeah. The emotional parent. The emotional parents are the most infantile of the 4 types. They give the impression that they need to be watched over and handled carefully. It doesn't take much to upset them, and then everyone in the family is scrambling to soothe them. When emotional parents disintegrate, they take their children with them into their personal meltdown. Their children experience despair, rage, or hatred in all its intensity. It's no wonder that everyone in the family feels like they're walking on eggshells. These parents' emotional instability is the most predictable thing about them. At the severe end of the spectrum, these parents are, quite frankly, mentally ill. They may be psychotic or bipolar or have narcissistic or borderline personality disorder. At times, their unbridled emotionality can even result in suicide attempts or physical attacks on others. People are nervous around them because their emotions can escalate so quickly and because it's so frightening to see someone you know come unglued. Suicidal threats are especially terrifying to children who feel the crushing burden to trying to keep their parent alive and they don't know what to do. At the milder end of the spectrum, emotional instability is the biggest issue, perhaps in the form of histrionic personality disorder or a cyclothmic disorder. I don't know what that means. Characterized by alternating episodes of high and low mood, regardless of severity. Yes,
One
please.
moment. So, histrionic personality disorder is basically unstable emotions. It's usually people with it usually have an incredibly distorted sense of self and an overwhelming desire to be noticed. So they it's a lot like you know how people with compulsive what was it? Pathological liars will usually tell them whatever they think that you want to hear or whatever will make you praise them the most. HPD is basically a similar version of that, except it's not just lying. Like everything that you're doing is meant to get to that, garner that attention.
All of their actions are designed to craft a personality that the person they want the attention or whatever they want from them finds satisfying.
Typically, typically it applies to crowds specifically, but sometimes it can apply to like individual relationships.
Interesting.
What was the other thing that was mentioned?
Cyclothmic.
Cyclothmic disorder. That's actually not one I've heard of, to be fair.
What?
Cyclothmia, also called cyclothmic disorder, is a rare mood disorder. Cyclothmia causes emotional ups and downs, but they're not as extreme as those in bipolar 1 or 2. With cyclothmia, you experience periods where your mood noticeably shifts up or down from your baseline.
Oh, interesting. That just sounds like regular behavior then. Yeah. I wonder how you
Um,
distinguish it.
Let me see.
I'm bipolar type 2, but that's not like the one people are familiar.
Well, so typically it's in response to a stimuli for an average person, but like this seems to be something in their brain is shooting out like chemicals that bring them up or down depending on like what time of day it is or what day of the week it is. So like that would be the difference. The highs and lows are less extreme than those of bipolar disorder. It's still often critical to seek help managing the symptoms, um, because cyclothmia can also result in the development of bipolar one or two.
Yeah.
It's usually treated through psychotherapy, medications, and close ongoing follow-ups with your doctor.
Um, sure.
Um,
Cat Dog Bark says he thinks that a lot of what we consider to be mental health disorders or illnesses is just actually learned maladaptive behavior that most of society sees a problem, but the person still
well,
uses, but the person still cause helps them get their way.
well,
You got to be really
to be
careful with
clear,
that.
when we're talking about personality disorders, that is a little bit true.
Yeah.
They are not an intrinsic thing. They are specific learned behaviors that have caused that start to cause such a deviance in the societal norms that we're supposed to be upholding that we can no longer meet what are realistic expectations being imposed upon us by others around us. It's not to say that you have to meet every expectation, just a certain set of them that is expected as like a baseline for human interactions. And basically when someone has a personality disorder, it's referring to that type of thing, but most things outside of personality disorders are things that you're born with.
Um, he said, "Careful?" Question mark. Who you're talking? When I say we have to be careful, I mean if we want to think about these things appropriately, I think it's good to take like a cautionary approach to how we categorize these things because some of the stuff, like you're to say, like bipolar type 2 might be a product of this. It's easy to like fall into that line of thinking when you don't know like the biological and neurological mechanisms that are at play that make these things happen. I don't think that your environment is typically going to cause like a change in like your neurophysiology in the same kind of ways that like a mental health disorder like bipolar would cause or like ADHD might cause. I think that your environment can influence in a small degree, like your neurophysiological structure, like neurons that wire together, fire together, wire together, that might be able to cause some sort of similar types of behaviors. But I think that there's a reason why, like, we see the kinds of scale in how people that have like these diagnosed disorders behave versus other people that have like tendencies that sort of like emulate certain like actual mental health diagnosable disorders.
I sent you a link on cyclothmia if you're interested in reading up on why they think that's relevant.
Oh, I do. Yeah, it sounds like when I experience like I can just like be depressed for no reason. It's like somebody walks into a room and just like flips off a switch and I'll be depressed. But it usually doesn't last that long. But it lasts longer than like bipolar type 1 where like their day can be like a roller coaster. I don't really have roller coaster days. Uh It'll just be like I guess it's just like every once in a while like my subway train gets changed to a different like I have to get off and get onto another one until that part of the ride is over. Not downplaying it. I'm just saying I don't agree with how the cause is typically. Uh,
Yeah,
I think I
most
just
of the parents who are being described in this book would probably qualify for some form of personality disorder and probably either cyclothmic or histrionic to some extent.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think environmental factors. So, like, I think if you have like bipolar, I think that your environment can make those symptoms much, much better. But having the correct environment will not alleviate the disease. Whereas if you just have a lot of, if like you just can't control your emotions because everything in your environment's so chaotic, if you get put into a good environment, you might just be able to thrive and never re-experience those issues that you had. That would be like the difference between like a genuine mental health disorder and like your environment causing you to be like mentally unstable. That's what I think that the differences are, and I think that because of like the kinds of literature there is out there about this, and I think it's also influenced by the number of different people in my life that have mental illnesses and seeing how they change in different environments as well. Like, I guess the research seems to match up with what I have observed. But I also think you get a lot of people that are just kind of shitty and stuff, and they throw around labels a lot that they're not diagnosed with, or that they trick their doctor into diagnosing them with. You know, people that do that, they like shoot for a diagnosis at the doctor.
Typically, people are window shopping when that happens.
Yeah, it's really weird to me when somebody's like, "Well, I don't like my doctor." Why? Like, well, they said this, this, and this when I was in there. Like, well, why would you expect to get a particular result? If you expect to get a particular result, why are you going to the doctor? Like,
My mom used to do that when it came to diagnosing me with something. I got all kinds of doctors who diagnosed me with some kind of personality disorder um, with like 1 day or 2 days of talking to me, and it's like, what the fuck do you know? It was super fucking frustrating because like the diagnoses that I got in my early life were mainly from my mom's accounts of my own behavior, not any observation of my actual behavior. And like, she then used everything that she said, which is something that she effectively directed them to say, as this, oh, you're mentally ill. You can't make choices for yourself, so I have to make them for you.
yeah, that kind of stuff. I was just thinking of it in terms of people who do it themselves. Naisha said it really well. Something like bipolar tends to be innate because it's actually a modality shift caused by chemical cycles. Yeah, I don't think that your environment is going to change that much. I don't disagree that certain things that happen to you environmentally can cause certain genes to turn on and off, but genes just sort of influence like the likelihood of things. It doesn't like I don't think that genetic environmentally changing factors can like change biology to that degree. I don't think we've seen anything like that, at least.
All right, ready to keep going, by the way.
Okay.
Do you want me to read?
Was I reading?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading. I can finish this section out. Oh, there we are. At times, their unbridled emotionality can even result in. Oh wait, no, I did read that part. So I'll just keep going. Result in suicidal attacks or physical attempts on others. People are nervous around them because their emotions can escalate so quickly, because it's so frightening to see someone you know come unglued. Suicide threats are especially terrifying to children who feel the crushing burden of trying to keep their parent alive but don't know what to do. The milder end of the spectrum, emotional instability is the biggest issue. Oh yeah, this is why we stopped. Perhaps in the form of histrionic personality disorder or cyclothymic disorder characterized by alternating episodes of high and low moods. Regardless of the severity, all parents have difficulty tolerating stress.
Oh, I
all
just
such
realized
parents.
it's probably pronounced cyclothymic. God damn it.
It's cyclothymic?
Yeah.
Not used to the
Almost
word.
certainly.
Well, thank you, though. I had no idea. Regardless of severity, all such parents have a difficulty tolerating stress and emotional arousal. They lose their emotional balance and behavioral control in situations mature adults could handle. Of course, substance abuse may make them even more unbalanced and unable to tolerate frustration or stress. Whatever their degree of self-control, these parents are governed by are governed by emotion, seeing the world in black and white terms, keeping score, holding grudges, and controlling others with emotional tactics. Their fluctuating moods and reactivity make them unreliable and intimidating. While they may act helpless and usually see themselves as victims, family life always revolves around their moods, although they often control themselves outside of the family where they can follow a structured role. Within the crucible of intimate family relationships, they display their full impulsivity, especially if intoxicated. It can be shocking to see how no holds barred they can get. Many children of such parents learn to subjugate themselves to other people's wishes because they grew up anticipating a parent's stormy emotional weather. They can be overly attentive to other people's feelings, moods, and often to their own determined. This is, that part is the thing that I see most reflected by the stuff that Mr. Grill has said, including my favorite video of his.
Brittany's story. Oh, if you want to read what Nisha said, by the way. Or I can.
Take it
I'd
easy.
say that-
Well, I was just gonna say bye to Cat Dog Bark. Take it easy, buddy. If you want to talk about this sometime, just hit me up. I was glad to have you. You can read what Nisha said if you want now.
I'd say both are genuine. One type is caused by birth, one type is caused by conditioning, but something like bipolar tends to be innate because it's actually a modality shift caused by chemical cycles. PTSD is a good example of environmentally caused disorder where healing requires having an environment that doesn't continuously validate it, but bipolar, conversely, being innate, needs a neurophysical treatment. But yeah. Also, another example is OCD, where it can appear to have environmental factors, and sometimes these factors change its severity in longer periods. But it's much stranger that treatment needs something more akin to conditioning instead of just medication.
Wait, my understanding is that OCD cannot be resolved without medication, even if it can be. So for me, my obsessive compulsive tendencies, when there's less choices, when I have to make less choices overall in my day to day, I have much less need for things to be a certain way. But it seems like the more decisions I have to make, the worse like the compulsivity to like
I'm pretty sure that
adhere.
I'm pretty sure that there are a bunch of cases of OCD that were treated entirely by exposure therapy.
That's bizarre to me. It's like, for instance, when I was in jail, certain things were, like, I had like one thing that I kept order of, and everything else like could be like fairly chaotic. Well, at least in my day-to-day life. But when I got a letter from my wife saying that she moved the furniture, my ex-wife now, she moved the furniture in the apartment. Oh man, it was very difficult for me to imagine the furniture moved because I couldn't watch it move.
Oh my god, there was one time, I shit you not. So I was over at my uncle's house and they had recently renovated and moved all of the things
I don't know
in the
what's
house
happening. Hang on.
around.
There's a cell phone now.
I don't know what's happening. Something's playing stuff. Something is playing sounds on my computer. I'm trying to find it and turn it off. Where is it? I know, but I have so many instances of Chrome open. So I'm trying to find it. There it is. Yeah, I was listening to Lewis Black. He put out a new special. Yeah, that was Lewis Black. Whoever else asked that too. Yeah, I love Lewis Black.
Nisha clarifies OCD is helped by medicine, but therapy is much more effective as a treatment.
I'm not. I wasn't asserting this as a fact. That's just what I thought I understood about it. But that information would have been gotten from me like 15 years ago. So maybe I was right then, or maybe I was wrong then too, and things have changed, or they haven't changed and I've always been wrong. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. But I think because of Cat Dog Bark, I'm gonna do a stream where I look over the differences between like environmental factors and biological ones and how they interact.
Also, if
Research
you want to
stream.
read another book when this is eventually done, another banger of a book is Conflict is Not Abuse. I hate how political that book gets, but it's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, that makes sense that it would be politicized. Peak.
Yeah, my biggest problem with Conflict is Not Abuse is that it talks a lot about certain overseas wars, and it's like, just state your point, please. You don't need to constantly allude to like wars that are going on in other countries to like determine if conflict is abuse, if all forms of conflict are abuse. Like, cut the fluff. It's an interesting read. It just has a lot of extra bits that are less interesting.
Interesting. I'm gonna keep my headset on. I know it's your turn. I'm gonna use the restroom, so I'll be able to hear you. You guys won't be able to hear me.
Okay.
My mic is here, so it's not the one on my headset. No worries. Yeah, that's very fair, Eli. Lewis Black said his best. He is among the best, but he's never bad ever.
Okay. Brittany's story. Despite the fact that Brittany was in her 40s and living independently, her mother, Shonda, still tried to control Brittany with her emotions. Once, when Brittany was in bed, sick for several days, Shonda's anxiety mounted until she called Brittany 5 times in one day. She also stopped by because she thought it was time for Brittany to get out of bed, even though Brittany had asked her not to come over. Finally, Brittany latched the screen door so that Shonda couldn't get in. Later, Shonda told her, "When you locked me out, I was so angry that I wanted to break your door down." When confronted with her about her intrusiveness, Shonda acted wounded and hid behind the excuse, "I just need to know that you're better." But the truth was, her primary concern was with her own feelings, not with what Brittany needed. The driven parent. Driven parents are the type that tends to look most normal, even appearing exceptionally invested in their child's lives. Being driven, they're always focused on getting things done, whereas emotional parents are obvious in their immaturity. Driven parents seem so invested in their child's success that their egocentrism is hard to see. Most of the time, you wouldn't notice anything unhealthy about them. However, their children may have trouble with either initiative or self-control. Paradoxically, these very involved, hardworking parents often end up with unmotivated, even depressive children. This is true of my parents too. One of the biggest issues I had growing up was my mother had all of these opinions about the sort of person that I should be, about how I needed leadership training because I was specifically going to be some kind of project lead or the person taking command, the one giving orders to everyone around me. And it's not a thing that I particularly liked or had an interest in. In particular, I don't even like people, which is what made it very frustrating because a lot of the training that I was getting was to better interact with people who I had no desire whatsoever to be around. That was a desire that I always had to manufacture, and it led to me becoming very spiteful and resentful towards people in general, to the point where I am incredibly misanthropic sometimes because it feels like there's this expectation that I just have to continually interact with people, have to continually help, have to continually be there. And I don't mind helping other people, but most people do not demonstrate themselves worthy of that level of consideration. Most people, as a friend of mine like to say, have a lot of quit in them. And it was always really frustrating because I was being pushed towards something that made me miserable, towards a number of different things that made me miserable. I also got pushed towards being a doctor when the thing that I was really interested in was how computers worked, how to code apps, and writing stories. None of that was anywhere near being a doctor or a lawyer. But these are the directions that I constantly got pushed in to such an extent that it's like destroyed my ability to have certain types of relationships with people. By the way, are you back? I'm going to assume no. If you look a bit deeper, you can detect the emotional immaturity in these upstanding, responsible people. It shows up in the way that they make
I'm back.
assumptions for their people, expecting, welcome back, everyone to want and value the same things they do. Their excessive self-focus manifests as conviction that they know what's good for others. That's something that my mother did a lot. She wanted me to become a lawyer because she thought at the time that she had wasted her chance to go to college and was never going to be able to become one. And she thought if I succeeded at it, it's the same as if she had succeeded at it.
It's really I heard you saying that, and I think it's so crazy because when I was growing up, I always wanted to be a lawyer, but my mom just wanted me to be a furry. No, I was just messing with you. My mom never had any aspirations for me whatsoever. Do you think that's worse? Better. There we go.
Expecting your child to be a furry is incredibly based. That is the ideal type of enmeshment.
But I wanted to be a lawyer.
That's disgusting. You know, I heard this really great joke. What do you call a room with a bunch of lawyers buried up to their necks in sand?
Not enough sand. I saw that one on Better Call Saul, which I'm one episode away from finishing.
That is an old one. I've heard that. I've That's like a fucking boomer joke.
Sure, but I may have heard it prior, but I heard it most recently watching Better Call Saul.
Pathetic. Pathetic. Where do you watch that?
It's on Netflix. I didn't think that I was gonna like it that much. It ended up being like really good. Like the character that you see in Breaking Bad has like a lot. There's quite a lot to him. It's just really good.
They don't experience self-doubt at a conscious level and prefer to pretend that everything is settled and that they already have the answers rather than accepting their child's unique interests and life paths. They selectively praise and push what they want to see. Their frequent interference in their child's lives is legendary. In addition, their worry about getting enough done runs them like a motor. Goals take precedence over the feelings of others, including their children. My grandfather, my grandfather developed cancer uh, right before I went into college. And my mom said, you know what, right now would be a great time for stuffing away all those feelings of the person who actually raised you and I didn't. Um, and how he's going to die and spending the last years of his life, the last years that you will ever get to know or experience or interact with him, focusing entirely on your studies so that you can make him proud. And I'm just like, You're fucking mental.
Did she like put any of his health expectations onto your performance? Like if you got a bad grade, like you like are you trying to send him to his grave early? He needs. Oh, good
Yeah.
God, that was my cartoonish fucking caricature of what I heard you saying. That's fucked up.
Uh-huh.
Wait, was
That's
it
why I
like
don't
that, or
talk
was like,
about
do you want him to die knowing that you're a failure, or was it like your failures are going to kill him?
It was like, if you fail, he's never like, the one thing that he's always wanted you to do is to graduate from college, and he'll have died without ever getting to see it.
Jesus Christ.
And it wasn't just you need to get good grades. You need to take the fast path through college, working yourself to the bone as hard as you possibly can every single day. It made me so miserable. It gave me such a horrible outlook on college. And the sad thing is, I had amazing teachers, some of them. Others were loser dipshits who I don't believe knew the subject that they purported to be teaching. But half of my teachers were such an inspiration and a motivation towards the things that I actually wanted to study, and they were such amazing people. But like I am forever poisoned on the concept of college because like I can't detach the memory of going to college from like her constantly pushing me to do that.
That's pretty
Like,
fucked
she's
up.
fucked up my life so bad, and, like, whenever I tried to talk to her, she's just like, "I was a good parent, though. Like, I was doing my best." And it's like, well, doing your best here is recognizing that you fucked up.
Sure. The contrast is wild to me. My grandpa died the day that I got a job at Taco Bell, and I remember thinking like, uh, that's cool. My grandpa's proud of me because I got a job. Like it was just Taco Bell, and I think I spent spent a good portion of my first check on like a quarter ounce of weed.
The ideal is being a parent that tries to encourage self-exploration and, from results of that, encourages pursuing your passions to make a path out of a life path out of it. True.
I was trying to find that in the fucking writing. I was like, wait, did I stop at the wrong part? It was so in line. But that was
Well,
Nisha's
it's
comment.
she
Yeah,
just talks like she has a doctorate in psychology.
a doctorate in what?
In psychology.
Nisha
It's a
does.
joke. I'm saying she talks like someone who has a doctorate in psychology. That's why it sounded the same.
I gotcha. Okay.
It's a meme.
Yeah. I'm dumb.
Um, Driven parents usually grew up in an emotionally depriving environment. They learned to get by on their own efforts rather than expecting to be nurtured, often self made. They're proud of their independence. This is not true at all for my mom. She was completely reliant on praise from everyone in the world around her. She's like one of the least independent motherfuckers imaginable half the time. Um, they fear that their children will embarrass them by not succeeding, yet they can't offer their children the unconditional acceptance that would give them a secure foundation from which to go out and achieve. Whether they mean to or not, driven parents make their children feel evaluated constantly. An example would be a father who makes his kids practice the piano in front of him so that he could point out their mistakes. This kind of excessive oversight often sours children on seeking adult help for anything. As a result, in adulthood, they may resist connecting with potential mentors. Certain that they know the best way to do things, driven parents sometimes do outlandish things. One mother insisted on going to her adult daughter's house to pay her bills because she was sure her daughter wouldn't be able to do it right. Another mother bought her adult son a used car that he hadn't asked for and was hurt when he didn't want it. And one young man's father made his son weigh himself in front of him every day that when he gained weight. If you think back to the infant attachment studies described at the beginning of this chapter, Ainsworth, Bell, and Staten, 1971 and 1974, driven parents seem to be similar to some of the emotionally insensitive mothers of insecurely attached babies. Out of sync with their child's moment to moment experience, they don't adapt themselves to their child's needs. Instead, they push the child down the path that they think he or she should be doing. As a result, the children of driven parents always feel that they should be doing more or doing something other than just whatever they're doing.
Do you want me to pick it up here?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, by the way, I wasn't sure how this was gonna go. I can't go as long today. I need to rest more. I'm fucked up. But I still got a good deal more in me. I just don't think I can go until like 9 o'clock this time. I stayed up for like 36 hours after that. I just couldn't get back to sleep. It was very anxious, or get to sleep. I was very anxious after all the car stuff.
I understand.
Although John was 21, he spent a lot of time with his parents and didn't feel any ownership of his life. Describing how he felt around his mother, he said, "I am constantly on her radar." John also felt pressured by his parents' hopes for him that he'd lost all confidence in his own ideas for his future. As he put it, "I worry so much about what they expect from me. I have no idea what I want. I'm just trying to keep my parents happy and off my case." This was especially true on family vacations. John felt like his father got really angry if John wasn't having a good enough time. John's parents were so over-involved in his life that he was afraid to set any goals, since it seemed to make them even pushier about whatever he needed to do next. They were killing his initiative by always urging him to do a little bit more or to try a little harder. At a conscious level, they wanted what was best for John, but were tone deaf when it came to respecting and fostering his autonomy. Christine's story. Christine was an attorney with a very domineering father, Joseph, who constantly pushed her to be a success. Early in our work together, she described her childhood like this: "My father controlled me. He couldn't stand anyone having a different opinion. It was absolutely intolerable to him. I was so afraid of making the wrong choice that I made a lot of decisions based on fear. It was as if my father completely owned me. Even in college, I had to be home by 11, which was extremely embarrassing, but I wouldn't have dreamed of challenging him." Joseph even tried to control Christine's thoughts. If Christine came up with an idea her father didn't like, his response was an immediate, "Don't even think about it." Joseph also had a lack of empathy, which made him a terrible teacher. He couldn't sense what might be terrifying to a child, so he tried to teach Christine to swim by literally dropping her in a pool. As Christine put it, "He commanded me to do well, but didn't offer any guidance or help. I was simply ordered to be a success." To all outward appearances, Christine did become a success, but on the inside, she felt a tremendous insecurity, like she really didn't know what she was doing. The passive parent. Passive parents aren't angry or pushy like the other three types, but they still have negative effects. They passively acquiesce to dominant personalities and often partner with more intense types who are also immature, which makes sense given that people with similar emotional maturity levels are attracted to one another. Compared to other types, these parents seem more emotionally available, but only up to a point. When things get a little too intense, they become passive, withdraw emotionally, and hide their heads in the sand. They didn't offer their children any real limits or guidance to help them navigate the world. They may love you, but they can't help you. Passive parents are as immature and self-involved as the other types, but they're easygoing and are often playful in ways that make them much more lovable than the other three types, emotional, driven, or rejecting. They are often the favorite parent and can show empathy for their children as long as it doesn't get in the way of their needs. And because they can be as egocentric as the other types, passive parents may use their child to meet their own emotional needs, primarily their need to be the focus of someone's affectionate attention. They enjoy the child's innocent openness and can get on the child's level in a delightful way. The child loves his or her time with the parent because the child is often filling a parent's need for admiring, attentive companion. It becomes an emotional incest. That's a weird way to put it. This kind of relationship is never completely comfortable for the child because it poses the risk of making the other parent jealous and may even feel sexualized. Children wisely know not to expect or ask much from these parents. While passive parents often enjoy their children, have fun with them, and make them feel special, the children sense that their parents aren't really there for them in any essential way. In fact, these parents are famous for turning a blind eye to family situations that are harmful to their children, leaving their kids to fend for themselves. When the mother is a passive parent, she may stay with a partner who demeans or abuses her children because she doesn't have an independent income. Such mothers often numb themselves to what's going around them. For example, one mother later referred to her husband's violent attacks on their children in a mild statement, "Daddy could be tough sometimes." I ain't reading that either. In their own upbringing, passive parents often stay out of the line of fire, keep a low profile, and subjugating themselves to stronger personalities. As adults, it doesn't occur to them that they have a mission not only to have fun with their own children, but to protect them. Instead, they go into a kind of trance during the worst times, retreating into themselves or finding other passive ways to weather the storm. In addition to unthinkingly abandoning their children when the going gets rough, these parents may leave the family if they get a chance at a happier life. If the passive but more emotionally connected parent leaves the family for any reason, the wound on the child can be especially deep, since the abandonment came from a parent who meant the most to the child. Children who adore a passive parent can become adults who make excuses for other people's abandoning behavior. As children, they believe nothing could be done about their childhood situation and that the passive parent was truly hopeless. They're often taken aback by the idea that their wonderful, nice parent actually had a responsibility to stand up for them when they couldn't protect themselves as children. They never considered the parents have a duty to protect their children's emotional welfare, at least on an even footing with their own interests. Molly's story. Molly's mother was a short-tempered, physically abusive woman who worked long hours and usually came home in a foul mood. Her father was a sweet, affectionate man who was usually in good spirits. He was fond of puttering in the garage when he wasn't at work, so Molly was mostly left in the care of her abusive, demeaning older sister, apparently with no consideration for how Molly might be treated. Molly's safe haven was her relationship with her father. His kindness was the single bright spot and source of love in her life, and she both worshipped him and felt protective of him. It never occurred to her to expect him to protect her. For example, once her mother flew into a rage and was beating Molly in the den, she heard her father banging pots around in the kitchen. She interpreted this as his way of letting her know he was still there for her. Okay. She had no expectation that he should step in and stop the abuse. This is I don't know how to pronounce this word.
This is a poignant example of how emotionally deprived children try to put a positive spin on their favorite parent's behavior no matter what. Poignant means
I do know the word. I just know how to pronounce it.
I am a writing nerd, so I know how to read a lot of different words.
So there's a lot of words that I know, and I read them and I just know them, but I wouldn't know how to speak them. Also, I'm mostly just embarrassed to mispronounce words when I'm reading them.
He misspoke.
Well, misspeaking is okay. Misreading is more embarrassing to me. It makes me feel stupid. Molly also had a slight stutter, and one time on a trip to an amusement park, Molly's sister and her friends teased Molly about it so much that she became hysterical. Molly's father laughed it off rather than admonishing the older kids for attending to Molly's feelings. On the drive home, everyone laughed uproariously, and they took turns imitating Molly's speech impediment. That's fucked. The rejecting parent. The rejecting parent seems to have a wall around them. They don't want to spend time with their children and seem happiest if others leave them alone to do what they want. The children get the feeling that the parent would be fine if they didn't exist. These parents' irritated demeanor teaches their children not to approach them, something one person described as running towards someone only to have the door slammed in her face. They summarily reject attempts to draw them into affectionate or emotional interactions. If pushed for a response, they may become angry or even abusive. These parents are capable of punitive physical attacks. Rejecting parents are also the least empathetic of the four types. They often use avoidance of eye contact to signal their distaste for emotional intimacy, sometimes deploy a blank look or hostile stare designed to make others go away. These parents rule the home, with family life revolving around their wishes. A well-known example of this type is the aloof, scary father, a man with no emotional warmth for his children. Everything revolves around him. The family instinctively tries to not upset him. With a rejecting father, it's easy to feel apologetic for existing, but mothers can be rejecting too. Children of rejecting parents come to see themselves as bothers and irritants. causing them to give up easily, whereas more secure children tend to keep making requests or complaining to get what they want. This can have serious ramifications later in life when, as adults, these rejected children find it hard to ask for what they need. Beth's story. Beth's mother, Rosa, never showed any enthusiasm about spending time with her. When Beth visited, Rosa resisted hugs and immediately found something to criticize about Beth's appearance. She usually urged Beth to call a relative as soon as Beth walked in the door, as though to redirect her elsewhere. Beth suggested spending time together. Rosa acted irritated and told Beth she was too dependent on her. When Beth telephoned her mother, anything Beth said was usually cut short as Rosa quickly found an excuse to get off the phone, giving the phone to Beth's mother. Oh, man. Like, yeah, because it's hot, but it's killing my eyes. Exercise. Determining your parent's type. To assess which of these 4 types might fit your parent, read through the following list and check off the characteristics you associate with your parent, bearing in mind the parents of any type can exhibit traits the other types when very stressed. Characteristics of emotional immaturity common to all types include self-preoccupation, low empathy, disregard for boundaries, resisting emotional intimacy, poor communication, and an absence of self-reflection, refusal to repair relationships, emotional reactivity, impulsiveness, and problem-sustaining emotional closeness. As before, if you'd like to complete this assessment for more than one parent or step-parent, use the downloadable version. Emotional parent. Is preoccupied with his or her own needs. Yeah, that's my mom. Has low empathy. No. Is enmeshed and not respectful of boundaries. Yeah. Is defensively non-intimate. I don't know. Doesn't engage in reciprocal communication, just talks about him or herself. I don't remember. Isn't self-reflective. Yes. Has poor relationship repair skills. Yeah. It's reactive and not thoughtful. It's either too close or too distant. I don't know. Blows up or cuts others off. Has frightening or intimidating.
Why would those two things be linked? That is, I feel like,
Blows up or cuts off.
yeah. I mean, I get that, like, it's
They
making
both-
everything all about themselves, but like, jeez.
No, it's both about controlling how others
Yeah.
communicate with you. Like if you blow up at somebody, they can't really say anything back, and if you cut them off, they literally can't say anything back. Has frightening or intimidating emotional intensity. Yeah. Expects his or her child to provide soothing and doesn't think about the child's needs. I don't know. Likes to pretend he or she doesn't run the show. Sees him or herself as a victim. It's pretty good enough for my mom. Oh god. There's so many of them. Okay. The driven parent is preoccupied with his or her own needs, has low empathy, is enmeshed and not respectful of boundaries, is defensively non-intimate, doesn't engage in reciprocal communication, just talks about his or herself, isn't self-reflective, has poor relationship repair skills, is reactive and not thoughtful, is either too close or too distant, has rigid values and perfectionist expectations, is goal-obsessed and busy with machine-like tunnel vision, sees his or her child as a reflection without considering what the child wants, likes to run the show, sees him or herself as a fixer, passive parent, is preoccupied with his or her own needs, has limited empathy, is enmeshed and not respectful of boundaries, can be sporadically emotionally intimate, engages only minimally in reciprocal communication, mostly talks about him or herself, isn't self-reflective, has limited relationship repair skills, can be thoughtful on occasion, is either too close or too distant, can be kindly and fun but not protective, has a laissez-faire attitude that all is well, is affectionate towards the child but doesn't stand up for him or her, likes someone else to run the show or be the bad guy, sees him or herself as mellow and good-natured. The rejected parent is preoccupied with his or her own needs, shows no empathy, has impenetrable boundaries, seems disconnected and hostile, seldom engages in communication, isn't self reflective, has no relationship repair skills, is reactive, attacking, and demeaning, too distant, ignores his or her child, or can be rageful towards the child, is often rejecting and angry, sees his or her child as a bother and doesn't want to get near the child, likes to mock and dismiss, sees him or herself as independent from others. That's good, Naisha. All four types of emotionally immature parent are self-involved and insensitive and therefore emotionally unavailable to their children. Their lack of empathy makes them hard to communicate with and difficult to connect with. They're all afraid of genuine emotion and seek to control others for their own comfort. None of them make their children feel emotionally seen. All of them are draining to be around in their own ways, and ultimately, all interactions center around them. In addition, all are capable of any true interpersonal reciprocity. Although there are four general types of emotionally immature parent, their children tends to fall into just two main categories: internalizers and external. The next chapter will take a look at two very different coping types. I tag you in if you don't mind.
Sure.
Oh,
How different people react to emotionally immature parenting. When immature parents can engage emotionally and give their children enough attention or affection, their children cope by imagining healing fantasies. This, by the way, healing fantasies, this is the Mr. Girl part. So when the words healing fantasy comes up, that's the clue to focus on that for a minute. Their children cope by imagining healing fantasies about how their unmet emotional needs will be fulfilled in the future. They also cope by finding a special family role, creating what I call a role self. The role self is designed to get some kind of attention from a preoccupied parent. In this chapter, we'll begin by looking at healing fantasies and role selves, and then explore two very different coping styles that children use in order to deal with emotional neglect, internalizing, or externalizing. Unfortunately, neither coping style allows a child to fully develop to his or her potential. Because of their parents' self preoccupation, these children are likely to feel that their true selves aren't enough to engage their parents. As a result, they start believing the only way to be noticed is to become something other than who they really are. Sadly, the true self, which consists of a child's innate aptitudes and genuine feelings, takes a backseat to what seems necessary to secure a place in the family. Although the true self still exists beneath the surface, it's often squelched by family rules that put the parents' needs first. In Chapter 7, we'll look at what happens when the underlying true self resurfaces to wake people up to their real feelings and full potential. But for now, let's look at how healing fantasies and family roles affect people in both childhood and adult life. Having immature parents forces children to adjust to their parents' emotional limitations. Children react to emotionally immature parents, parenting in a number of different ways as they attempt to be noticed, cared for, and engaged with. But the one thing all emotionally deprived children have in common is coming up with a fantasy about how they will eventually get what they need. As children, we make sense of the world by putting together a story that explains our life to us. We imagine what would make us feel better and create what I call a healing fantasy, a hopeful story that will make us truly happy one day. Children often think that the cure for their childhood pain and emotional loneliness lies in finding a way to change themselves and other people into something other that they can than what they truly are. Healing fantasies all have that theme. Therefore, everyone's healing fantasies begin with if only. For instance, people may think they'd be loved If only they were selfless or attractive enough, or if they could find a sensitive, selfless partner, or maybe they think that their life would be healed by becoming famous or extremely rich or making other people afraid of them. Unfortunately, the healing fantasy is a child's solution that comes from a child's mind, so it often doesn't fit adult realities. But whenever the healing fantasy, whatever the healing fantasy gives the child optimism to get through a painful upbringing in hopes of a better future. Many people have survived a miserable childhood in this way. The hopeful fantasy of one day being loved and attended to keeps going. How healing fantasies affect adult relationships. As we grow into adulthood, we secretly expect our closest relationship to make our healing fantasies come true. Our subconscious expectations for other people come straight from this childhood fantasy world. We believe that if we keep at it long enough, we will eventually get people to change. We might think our emotional loneliness will finally be healed by a partner who always thinks of our needs first, or a friend who never lets us down. Often these unconscious fantasies are quite self-defeating. So, for example, one woman secretly believed that if only she can make her depressed father happy, she would finally be free in her own life to do what she wanted. She didn't realize that she was already free to live her own life, even if her father stayed miserable. Um,
Yes.
She didn't realize that she was already free to live her own life, even if her father stayed miserable. Another woman was sure that she could get the kind of love that she longed for from her husband if she did everything he wanted. When he still didn't give her the attention she thought she'd earned, she was furious with him. Her anger covered the anxiety she felt when she realized her healing story wasn't working. Even though she'd given it her best shot since childhood, she'd been sure that she could make herself lovable by being a good person. We usually have no idea what we're trying to foist a healing when we're trying to foist a healing fantasy on someone, but it can be seen in the little tests of love that we put people through. It's easier for an outsider to see how unrealistic the fantasy is. Successful marital therapy often involves exposing one's feeling how people's healing fantasies try to force their partners to give them the loving childhood they always wished for. If your parents, developing a role self. If your parents or caregivers don't adequately respond to your true self in childhood, you'll figure out what you need to do to make a connection. Instead of just being who you are, you'll develop a role self or pseudo self. Bowen, 1978. That will give you a secure place in your family system. This role self gradually replaces the spontaneous expression of the true self. This role self might be based on a belief such as I'll become so self sacrificing that other people will praise and love me. Or it might take the negative form of I'll make them pay attention to me one way or another. The process of assuming a role self is unconscious. No one sets out to do it deliberately. We create our role selves gradually through trial and error as we see the reactions of others. Regardless of whether a role self seems positive or negative, as children, we saw it as the best way to belong. Then, as adults, we tend to keep playing the role in hopes that somebody will pay attention to us in a way that we wished our parents had. Um, I think that my mother had this habit of being a perpetual victim when I was a child, and the role self I kind of ended up creating was if I could cure enough of her issues and later another partner's issues, um, everything would be fine. If I just stuck at it, ignored all the signs that something is going horribly wrong, um, if I just ignored the red flags, you know that meme where the guy is mining for diamonds and
Yeah.
yeah, that that's basically what I just kept telling myself is like the diamonds are there. The diamonds are there.
They're right on
They're
the other
all
side. I just gotta
there,
push a
yeah.
little further.
Yeah. And I would keep doing this and doing this, and it propelled me through relationships. But a lot of these relationships are really fucking destructive,
Sure.
like really destructive. Like, holy shit. Some of them were so just like emotionally abusive. But I kept thinking that, like, if I could cure someone's depression, if I could cure someone's inability to open up, if could cure, like, I can fix him.
Yeah.
And eventually I realized I have to have higher standards for myself and seek out the kind of people that are worthy of me, not be worthy of other people. And that was a very recent realization.
Well, I'm glad you got there. Uh, how did you get there?
Um, so had this conversation with a friend.
Was it Nisha?
I'm not telling which friends.
Oh,
Like,
I asked that because Nisha said I bullied her. That's the only reason I asked.
okay, she bullied me a little, yeah, but I actually had this conversation with another person, and I realized how upset it made me that they were self-harming, and I opened up about that. It was a rare moment of me feeling safe to be authentic and open up to people at this point. And when that person got done listening to my rambling, which was really bad, I looped like fuck during that conversation. Um, they they told me how much my feelings mattered to them and how touching everything that I said was. And I realized that from that and another conversation that my emotions are capable of like mattering to other people, that there are people out there who they actually matter to. And it was a thing I hadn't really processed. It was a thing that I could like very vaguely understand sometimes, but like finally being introduced to the fact that I can matter to someone, I just realized I just had to ask myself, why the fuck am I spending so much time um trying to appeal to people who don't value my authentic self? Why am I trying to make myself more marketable to other people? Why am I changing the way that my brain works? Even sometimes my perception of reality itself just to appease someone who at the end of the day is never going to appreciate me for who I am, for the opinions and effort that I bring. And I started to realize that there is more to life than just succeeding at the tasks you're assigned.
Interesting. I agree. Um, and it's really interesting because I I don't ever remember a time where succeeding at a task was anything that that I was assigned was ever anything I cared about. Which I obviously that came from your parents, based on what you said about college and stuff. But like, I I never gave a fuck about what anybody else wanted me to do. Um, which is maybe why I wanted to know how you got to where you're at now, because I think I almost like just reject things that other people want me to do for the sake of them wanting me to do it.
I never really felt safe rejecting the things that other people want me to do. There's a person in my life, for instance, who, because I didn't meet enough of their standards, actually, I'd say one person, but this is like 20 different people, actually. Uh, or that is to say, there are 20 different people who do this to us. Um, there are a bunch of people who actually like go behind our backs to friends and tell the most insane, deranged stories um, about us, about how we forced someone to commit suicide, about how.
In a video game.
Well, no, I'm just saying that's what they'll say that I did.
I know. I was just saying that they talk about a video game.
Yeah.
Uh,
They
sorry that that's
they'll
necessary to clarify.
yeah, yeah, I can
I
understand.
didn't mean to
Fair enough.
derail you. Continue, please.
Um they'll tell really fucky stories about how we're basically these serial abusers. Um and they'll like to some extent, like it's fine if people think that some of our behaviors are probably abusive, like, everyone does something like that. But like um some of the shit that gets made up is like, it's spooky to know that some of the people that interact with us, like if someone stops interacting with us, I never know if like one of the people just finally like tracked them down and tried to like convince them. At one point we had a partner who 3 or so years ago, someone told them a story about how manipulative we were and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that person who was a partner who we were helping with their depression spends an entire year being completely unable to trust us and constantly like destroying herself internally because of like the shame of it all. And like, I don't inherently care that people are talking about us, but the way that it hurts the people that they talk to sometimes is scary. And like, if we lose someone that we're just never going to get to talk to again, that kind of sucks. But like, when people do that to manipulate the people around us that we love and care about, it fucks with me.
I can imagine. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Sorry, that sucks.
Eh, you get used to it eventually.
I have a very hard time dealing with that because I don't lie to people. So when somebody comes to me, every once in a while, my wife will think that, like, I don't think she thinks this, but like the end result would be that I lied to her, and she'll think like she knows the truth about something, and she'll be like kind of like uppity angry, and like reveal to me this like the truth of something. I'm like, wait, You think I lied to you? And then she'll like take a step back and be like, well, no, not. And then like we'll go through the thing and it'd be very obvious that whatever the thing is isn't true. I don't like it when people say things about me that aren't true because I would have a much different life if I was dishonest. When I was in my early 20s and late teens, I'd lie about whatever to get whatever. And like, so I know how much better my life could be if I was just shitty and lied all the time, but I don't do that. Like
I'll say same.
it's like one of my biggest like most important things like internally. I can think of like in the last 15 years of all the times that I lied. I they were like really innocuous and like one time I lied to these people I was staying with because I didn't want them to kick me out, but I lied against myself because I didn't think they'd believe the truth. But like it was like later that day I went and told them the truth. Like I was so freaked out that I just said the thing that I thought they wanted to hear because I was so scared. Like that freaked me out too. I did lie to. I think you can lie to your boss and your parents. I lied to one of my bosses. She thought that I came to work high and I didn't. But I smoked fake weed, like 6 hours before I had to be to work, and I was just still feeling a little funny that day. But she thought I came to work stoned off of weed. So I was like, no, I didn't do anything. And I told her like later. But I think you can lie to your parents and you lie to your bosses. That's it. People that have too much power over you for you to be reasonably expected to be truthful to them about everything.
That's basically how I work. I'm only gonna lie to someone for self-preservation, and I try to keep the lie as minimal as possible.
I generally won't lie for self-preservation, but if somebody has an amount of power over to me where they can request information that I'm not allowed to say I don't want to tell you, that's when I think it's okay to lie. If you're not allowed to deny them access to information because of the amount of power they have over you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can
Um,
understand.
So, and as far as I can think of, it's like parents and bosses, because they can just like force you to answer more or less, and I don't think that that's ethical.
Oh well, usually I'll just try not to. Usually I'll just try not to answer, but like if I'm forced to,
Yeah, if you're
you
being
know.
interrogated, yeah, you can. I think it's morally permissible to lie in that situation because if I don't want somebody to know something, I'll just tell them like I don't want to talk about it, or I'm not going to tell you, and I think that's okay. It might be shitty or to some degree disrespectful in some situations, but I'm okay with being shitty to people sometimes if I feel like it's necessary. But I don't think it's okay for me to lie to somebody because it's like you're forcing them to live in a false reality. Then it's just I won't get too far into it, but like I just think that's really really fucked up, and you're forcing yourself to live in a false reality. I think it's bad for your mental health. I think the lying fucks you up.
Yep, I absolutely agree. It's another reason I don't do it.
It it scares like the thought of me lying now with like my current psychology. If the idea of me lying scares me a lot, and
I feel
so
like
don't lie about
the
me.
when it comes to me, the reason I try not to lie is that I know that like every lie I tell slowly chips away at my sense of self or who I am or my ability to know myself.
It's
And
true.
in all honesty, that's scarier than like any other consequence of lying. I think that if you could see the way that that chips away at you and you would still lie, like you're genuinely just crazy.
So I'm gonna tell you something that makes me sound kind of loony. When I was so I've
Told
always
me
been
things, but go ahead.
when I was a teenager, particularly then, it's still to this day, very very into the study of religion. Like, but when I was a teenager, I was just like obsessively consuming material. My family went fishing at this park that had a library in it. While they were fishing, I was taking notes on Islam. Like, I literally had a pencil and paper and was reading the book and like took notes. Eventually, I came up with an idea for my own religion, the basis of which was that every time that you lie, you take away a part of your humanity. What I meant by that was like you alter yourself. And the only way that you can really be your true self was to correct any misinformation that you put out there. So that way you could experience the world with people viewing you honestly and you viewing yourself honestly. And really, that wasn't so much a religion as it is just like a worldview. But I think that is, I still think that's true. I think that you alter your image of yourself, if for no other reason, even though you know it's a lie. The way that people interact with you, if it's based on a lie, they're not interacting with you, they're interacting with a version of yourself that you've created. And if you lie to different people, you are being interacted with as though you are multiple different people that you're not. And I think
Pretty
that's
much.
really bad for you.
Same.
So I think it's a lot of people like, well, I don't really lie, but they tell little white lies and stuff like. I don't do that. I tell the mean truths because I'm scared of what it does to me. Like you could almost call it like a psychological problem with me not lying. I think the closest it comes is sometimes I will shorten things or I will phrase things in a way that's not entirely honest, so that way somebody can understand what they need to understand in a timely manner. So I don't have to rant like for 45 minutes to get somebody to understand something. That's just more like trying to be pragmatic. And I do it in a way that's not trying to be misleading. Do you do that?
Yeah. I try to be as honest with people as I possibly can, because like I said, I've seen what that lie like do to me over time, and my it damages my sense of self the more I do it.
Yeah. I think the best
And like
example. Oh, go ahead.
I always ask myself, like, what other person in the entirety of the world could possibly be worth like that level of self-harming?
Yeah,
And
I got
basically
nothing.
the only answer would be like a kid. That was it. That'd be it. It's
I
like
don't
if
lie
I
to my
ever
kid.
well, yeah, but I'm saying like what kind of person, if you absolutely had to for whatever fucking reason imaginable lie to, like what person would be worthy of that sacrifice? Pretty much only a child.
Oh,
Your
I
own child is what I would say.
I told my wife yesterday, if I ever lied to her, it would be like some kind of like extreme necessity. Like I would lie to her to save her life or something. And if I ever did too, I would never let her know because I think that I should have to suffer with it forever. It would probably drive me insane.
Based.
I think that if you do lie to somebody on something important, it's your obligation to deal with that and be fucked up about it. I don't think that you get to take it back to them if it's over something important. You're just gonna hurt them so that you feel better. Nobody tells anybody the truth to make the other person feel better, or because they think they owe it to them. They always do it to make themselves feel better. I really believe that. But I get, well, maybe I don't know. I don't really understand the perspective of people that lie a bunch, unless you're like crazy. Like I might say that I'm gonna go
I
to the
think
gas
people
station if I'm gonna go to like the store around the
I
corner
think
or something. I don't know. That's
I
about
think
like
people
as
that don't have like the self-respect don't realize how valuable they are and the ability to understand themselves is. Or maybe they just don't suffer that way.
I think some people thrive in it. I had a roommate. We'll call him Craig. That's his real name. I had a roommate, Craig, and it was a pretty bad living situation and stuff. But he had a house that I could stay at, and he would lie about everything all the time. Like this is like genuinely a compulsive liar, and everybody knew it. And one day we were drinking. I said, Craig, just so you know, homie, it's just me and you. Don't have to make up shit to impress me or anything. Like, we're chill, homie. You're my roommate. Uh, like, I respect you for who you are. And he sort of paused and looked at me. He didn't say anything, but I could tell he understood what I was saying. He didn't push back on it or anything. And he looked down and he looked back up at me and just started to tell me another wild story. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, I think that's a mental illness. It's gotta be. It's gotta be. Uh, that's the only person I've ever met that like truly seemed like they were broken in a way that they just had to constantly say things that were not true. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but it's wild. You just have to assume everything they say is a lie. I have a friend who lies a lot. I don't think is mentally wrong, but I'll tell them like, look, I think you're lying to me, which sucks because maybe you're telling me the truth, but I can't tell. You lie too much. I have no idea. I treat everything you say as a lie. But I think it's nice to tell people that. It's kind to tell people that shit. Sorry, everybody. Oh, hey, Hayes. Sorry, we got so far off track, and I don't think I can go much longer. I'm, like, constantly fidgeting. I am, like, from here, like, the bottom of my tits and up is just, I am racked with pain and soreness.
Sure. We can leave this for next time.
Okay, yeah, if you want to cut off now, that'd be great. I'm sorry, I didn't expect any of that shit to happen. I am, ungodly. So have you ever went to the gym after not doing anything for like a year?
Yes, it's awful.
It's like that, but I also hit my head on the corner of my car hood on the pointy part as well. Like I went to go look down under the hood and I smacked into it super hard. In addition to that, and then yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like that plus ouch on the noggin. Okay, I'm gonna lay down for a little bit. Do you have anything that you're doing soon that you want to talk about while there's people here?
No, we don't have anything. Well, actually, I guess yeah. This would be a great time to plug our moving fun thing.
Oh yeah. You guys can
We
also find it on my
have,
Twitter.
yeah, we have an unsafe living situation, and we will be moving at the end of the month, and anything that people want to donate goes towards helping us get settled in and our and making sure that we're safe if we can't find a job in the first month.
Based. If you guys can help out Haru and the rest of the system, please donate. Yeah, I'm sure every little bit counts. Nisha says you have Pathfinder tomorrow.
Yes, we have an amazing game of Pathfinder to meow. I didn't know what that was gonna sound like.
Tomorrow I'm doing a 1.5 hour sort of a makeup stream for my React streams. Beats is just gonna host it, and instead of doing the regular React, I'm gonna just let Beats play the music that he likes while I test streaming my PS5 through my computer. There's a possibility of another stream on Wednesday. I'm gonna try on Saturday. Somebody wrote the worst list ever of the most powerful anime characters, and Diva's hosting that panel. She invited me on there. I'm gonna be triggered and awful and inconsolable the entire stream because I hate it so much. I might try to do a tier list of like my favorite anime before that, just so people understand where I'm coming from and what I know.
I'm just gonna say Hanataro Yamada in S tier for the best for like the most powerful anime characters.
Who?
Hanataro Yamada.
Who's that?
From Bleach.
Are
I'll let you look that up and enjoy what you find.
they universal?
What do you mean universal?
Could they destroy a universe?
You know what? Sure.
Here's
Potential.
here's a fun fact. Because like there was several people above like Dragon Ball Super characters, which they're not that high up on the power scaling, but Goku shook an endless void in Super. He shook an endless void with his like excess energy, which means he has literally infinite power. It is limitless. It goes on forever, and he shook it.
Okay, so I
That's
guess
obnoxious.
Where is Saitama on this chart?
Saitama was listed as number 1, I think, which is one of the only like reasonable ones on the list.
Wait, how would he be the strongest?
So
What?
It's reasonable for people to think that he is extremely strong, and that the writer said canonically, if he punched as hard as he could, one of his full force punches would equal half of the force that of the Big Bang. So if he punched as hard as he could with both of his fists, that equals the Big Bang.
Okay, so then all you have to do is make a situation where he's completely restrained and he can't do shit.
You could you would have to be able to restrain something that could deliver a blow equal to half of the Big Bang, though. How do you restrain that much strength?
Also, Nisha saying her Tuesday nights are partially freed. So if you want to do something like 2.5 hours from now, it can be like any week on a Tuesday. She would love to have psychology discussions since that interests you.
Yeah. In the near future, I want to do what I said about what Cat Dog Bark was talking about, the differences between like nature versus nurture when it comes to mental health issues. I would like, if you want to do like a guided investigation and discussion about the differences between these two things. I'm pretty interested in that because I'm pretty aware of like where like that there's some hard lines here, but I'd like to see where the overlap and nuances in those situations. I think that's interesting conversation to have because I think there's a lot of like bad information out there, which can lead people to having like straight up retard takes like Mr. Girl on ADHD, or at least that he had. I don't know if he still holds them. He, since I talked to him, he's changed the way he talks about it a bit, and I would like to think because he talked to an ADHD expert and still held them, so I'd like to think that some of the pushback he got from the community has helped, at least insofar as how he presents it, which is very cool and very based. The very next time he talked about it, his language was much better. Bausch's ADHD takes two. Send me a link because I'm very, very well versed about ADHD, and I will be damned if somebody's gonna tell me that it's just the bottom 10% of people being able to like focus and shit. The ability to focus is one small thread of a big ass teddy bear of woe.
I still don't believe that Vosh has autism.
Oh, that's the easiest thing for me to believe I've ever heard.
Why?
He is very. I've seen him be very inept to other people in like their emotional states. I've seen him.
In this space.
What?
That's most people in this space. I think a lot of people.
I'm just saying a lot of things that he's done seem to qualify for different qualifiers of autism. He says he has autism.
He seems to allege that very firmly nowadays. I don't know why it took him several years of streaming to finally say something. There's no way that he got tested when he's like 30 and got the diagnosis because almost no one does at that point.
Oh, I know somebody who got diagnosed when they were like 27, and they were like, everything makes so much more sense to me. And she was like, she would like just go nonverbal, even like at jobs and stuff, and didn't really understand. I forgot what the reason that they gave her before was for it, but it seemed pretty laughable, the previous diagnosis that she had. But I met her after she had already had the diagnosis, and it was like, yeah, there didn't seem to be anything wrong with that. Maybe he just thought like, maybe I have the money and time now, I can get tested. But then again, I also don't want to give him any charity. Oh, and on Thursday I'm on Wix panel, which is I have to do some homework on. So I might, after my 1.5 hour stream, I might do some other research on stream. It's about, should we put mentally ill people into institutions? Should we institutionalize mentally ill people? I think absolutely not. There's a ton of reasons why not. But the other people on the panel are all like, most of them are pretty heavy hitters. So if I want to be able to get my words in, I'm gonna have to be very correct and very direct. So I got to do some homework on it.
I've got to say, Wick has a problem with platforming some absolutely disgusting conversations.
Well, I plan on making that conversation very, very clear. My objective is to, if somebody disagrees with me about this subject, I will have already provided enough information to where either it'll be known that they're trolling, or they are so apathetic that it would be appropriate to just say that it's evil.
You know what? You want to watch an incredible video?
The Katie's.
No.
Whose is it?
Do you know who Cathorix is?
No.
You're gonna learn.
Yeah, send me a link because I would like to have more information. I'm gonna read up on the woman who went undercover into an insane asylum, the one that American Horror Story season 2 is based on. Also, there was some people that went undercover in some UK asylums in the last couple years to expose it.
All right.
But you can never.
This is a 7-minute video. Do you want me to stream it to you? It's such a banger.
How about I'm gonna watch it when I lay down, and I'll message you after I watch it, because like I have like 1 more minute of being able to sit in this fucking chair before I scream.
Okay. I really hope you enjoy it. The joy of eugenics.
Oh, I said to putting people in asylum is just social eugenics. We might not be killing them, but we are removing them effectively from the gene pool anyways by locking them up, and we just live in a society where they don't exist.
I'm gonna be real. If anyone gets if anyone should get locked up, it's probably the neurotypicals.
Well,
That's my hot take.
well.
Let's talk about jailing the neurotypicals. It's interesting that certain people like Wick don't have that conversation.
You could try. I'll end it on this, which is like basically my most prominent take I'm gonna give on Thursday. You can never have any institution where there are some members of it that have maximum complete authority and power over other people, and the other people have like literally no power whatsoever, and not know that these people are going to be abused and exploited at every possible conceivable turn. That's just how we are. That is the nature of power dynamics, and that's what asylums are. All right, I'm gonna go and lay down and rest until my wife gets home.
All right. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks, you too. You guys, go give Fauna some money and watch her stuff. Oh, who do you want me to raid? Is Nature streaming?
No. Let me see. There's someone named the Heartless Project who's streaming. They're a furry VTuber. They're pretty nice.
Heartless
Project.
Hey, you got it.
Thank you.
Welcome. Go say hi. Bye, you guys. Oh, wait, I have to 7 seconds. Ugh. Kitty hurt. Oh, okay. Ah! Of all the days. Oh, that hurt a lot. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, Haru.